parameters, stuff.
When I start.
Yep, whenever you start. Then do attendance roll call. Whenever you're ready. Hey Phil, how you doing? Good, thanks.
Okay, we, my gavel. I'm gonna declare the meeting open at 7:05 of the municipal operations. We have 3 members present physically, and then we have 3 members online. 5 is a quorum. So even if someone gets up to go to the bathroom, we still have a quorum. In accordance with Governor Baker's declaration of June 16th, 2021, granting certain pandemic-related authorizations related to public board and town meetings, and recently extended until March 31st, 2023, this meeting will be conducted both in person and virtually online via Google Meets. The meeting may be recorded and may be broadcast live over SMAC and recorded for later broadcast and internet access. To participate in the public hearing with Google Meets, there's https://kkx-soav-udw. To join the public hearing by phone, 1-413-779-5349, PIN 787-076-710, hashtag. Agenda items may be taken out of order at chairperson's discretion. Votes may be taken on recommending articles to the annual town meeting. I highly doubt that will happen. We have to hear 22 articles and the building closes at 9.
Well, they're gonna keep it open till 10:30 for us, 10 o'clock.
So stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. We have determined that we have a quorum. A quorum of this committee is 4 + 1, which is 5, and there are 6 of us. Has everyone had it, well, some of you had a chance to review the draft meeting minutes? Does anyone feel they can vote on them now, or should we wait?
I can vote on them now.
What about you, Jim?
Yep, I'm fine, yep. Yeah, I'm good.
I need a motion to approve. I did find some spelling errors, so could I have a motion to approve the minutes
Motion,
of
October 26, 2022.
October 26, 2022, as amended?
motion so made.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Well,
You should do a
we have to
roll call.
poll.
Yeah.
Michael Sullivan, on the minutes.
Mike, can you hear that? Your microphone, I don't hear your microphone. Yes.
John DeStefano.
I approve.
Cynthia Walsh, yes. Michael Haran.
We not hearing, my microphone not up here? Oh, wait a minute, could be my machine. Go ahead, try again, Michael.
Abstain?
Yes. You abstain, okay.
Jim Guerin.
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
Okay, so what is that? 5 yeses and 1 abstain?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, everyone. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
Motion to open the public hearing.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Michael Sullivan,
Yes.
John DeStefano,
Yes.
Cynthia Walsh votes yes. Michael Haran,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and Dawn.
Yes.
So I'll declare the public hearing open. And we've had a request to hear first responders first. So, Fire, you were here first, so come on down. Could we have someone here, because this is where the mic is, so that the vast TV audience can hear us? And are you just here for Article 49?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I've got it. So this is, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to purchase capital for the fire department, firefighting and emergency medical services, life safety equipment, $295,000. CAD software, $55,000. Command vehicles, $170,000. Firefighting protective gear, $70,000. Self-contained breathing apparatus, $225,000. And this was requested by the fire chief, inserted by the select board. So if you want to, if you have a statement you'd like to make, Chief Carroll?
So, Tess, you all set? Set? Yeah, so there is actually, and I made them aware, when they put that in, there was actually they confused two of the items.
Self-contained
The
breathing
yes,
apparatus
and the
is for
PPE. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that diving equipment?
That's the air.
I figured rescues at
That's
Ames
going into the
Pond.
fire.
That was those are the air tanks for
Yeah,
for
the
fires.
Scott Air Packs.
Right, those are Scott Air Packs, and then the PPE, I believe, is so those two need to be actually flipped. And they told me to wait till my hearings to actually change those. So the PPE is $225, and that's the protective, personal protective gear. Essentially, that's our turnout gear. We wear into, that's $225. Is that what you have there?
For the firefighting protective gear, we have 70,000.
Right, so that's to be $225, and the SCBA is supposed,
This one had self-contained breathing apparatus?
yes,
There's 70, I see, just flip them.
just flip them. When they enter
So
them,
this- the numbers are
those
flipped.
two numbers are flipped, yep.
But you also want, do you still want it to be titled self-contained breathing apparatus?
Yes, it's titled correct, it's just actually those two numbers, when it was entered into the article, were entered wrong. I had made them aware, but they said address it at the meetings.
That makes sense, okay.
Now, did you want to go through each item or just answer questions?
I can really explain each items, but if it's easier for you, however the chair would want it done.
What about the committee? Do you want to hear each item, or would you like to just ask questions about particular items?
Anybody online have a response to that?
I guess, what about you folks?
These are all fairly standard requests.
Can I get a copy of the articles? You have a copy?
Pardon me?
You have a copy of the article so I can read the article?
Do you have a copy?
I don't have any extra you might have any extra documentation?
We do.
Yeah.
We have a flip
No, I got
chart here, we also
I have,
That's mine.
oh, yeah,
tablet.
I have
You
a
did,
I just
you
wanna,
did not get a warrant?
I did, but I just didn't bring it with me.
Oh, okay.
This can be passed
Um,
around to the board.
Thank you.
Well, the chief is going to go through each.
Sure.
There, even if you had a warrant, they're simply listed with a dollar amount. So the chief will go through them for us.
Did I add these up
All right.
correctly to $815,000?
That's correct, yeah.
Why don't you start with firefighting?
So the easiest thing to do would be probably just to walk through them, I would think. So, what we did here, this year is, a lot of this fits into our policies, whether it be, policies and also the,
Rotation and replacement.
yep, so NFPA standards, for firefighting gear, our SCBA's, also our vehicle replacement policy, which has been in place for approximately 5 years now. Everything kind of fits into that. Where we have seen increases, and I have copies for quotes as well. We reached out to the vendors we typically use through either the state bid list or otherwise, and got real-time quotes, because we've noticed an increase, as everybody has worldwide, in all items. So there has been an increase on SCBA's, for instance, have gone up to, where once they cost us approximately $7,000, the new quote, and it's real, because we had just actually purchased one set. It's a pack plus the air pack, so it's a harness and then the air pack. They're now costing $12,117. We've tried to offset these. We have a lot of grants out there we've applied to, but also some that we've received. So we are trying to catch up or make up for that through grants. The $70,000, as you can imagine, with $12,000 apiece is just shy of 7 packs. We typically run with these items are getting a little bit older. Typically, they last about 15 years. They're all on their either 13th or 14th year, except for approximately 20 of them. And we'd like to start almost replacing those a little bit at a time. That's why you see the $70,000 for that. The PPE also has increased in price, not as much, but those have gone up to approximately $8,000, where they were probably about actually just shy of $6,000 a piece. Where we meet standards on that is that gear needs to be replaced within 10 years. And how we do it is each firefighter, we typically try to get 2 sets. One set for when they come back from a fire, they can automatically get into, put their backup set in place while they're extracting their all the toxins and stuff off their newer gear, and then replace. So what was the final number on that we need to replace immediately? Well, how many sets?
Our primary set of gear for all the members of the department is 6 years old.
Yeah.
The lifespan from the National Fire Protection Administration is 10 years. It's a 10-year lifespan, so all the personnel's secondary set of gear is 10 years or slightly older.
Yeah.
So we need to rotate that 6-year-old primary set of gear into the secondary set of gear and outfit the firefighters with new firefighting gear.
Right. So that will kind of get us on pace to start replacing about 50 sets of gear. And then it will allow, some of our newer hires do not have a second set. They're either using a retired member's set, or they don't have a second set of gear. So what our goal is to kind of start replacing that. 50 sets, we have 63 members. We feel like we're good upstairs in admin, but it's more about the firefighters' boots on the ground that would really needs to be replaced. There's also a huge wait time for that. So if we ordered a set of gear, we're getting it in about 6 to 7 months. As with everything, it's been delayed. So moving on to our next is the incident command vehicles. That falls into our apparatus replacement policy. As outlined, as the Assistant Chief said, the shift command vehicle, which is our C5, is due, as well as our C4, that's our training and safety officer. What we put in for were 2 command type vehicles, more of a pickup, I would say F-150 or like. We did try to go with a hybrid vehicle that would, we tried to wanted to move towards more of I guess, a green approach, but also we didn't want to rely specifically on electrical vehicles. We're not there yet. The idea behind that is the C5, which is the shift command vehicle, and C4, which is the safety and training, would move down to the fire prevention vehicles, which are the fusion hybrids, which really do they don't do well in this weather that's upcoming, the snow or whatever. They're basically useless. Although I think they're good vehicles, and I would like to actually, if allowed by the town, is put them, I know that the town hall is struggling, I feel that they're good vehicles. Our mechanic thinks they're good vehicles for more, probably for the pool, the town pool of vehicles. That was just an idea I had in my head, but they're essentially useless, as in this upcoming storm. I'm probably gonna rely on fire prevention officers to actually do running with wires down and whatnot. They're rendered useless. They can't go out in a command type vehicle and do the job that I would require them to do during events like that. Let me see, that's PPE. Department software. We're starting to make the approach to do more of an encompassing firefighter software. We do run on IMC, which is run through our dispatch. IMC has been reaching out to some Massachusetts departments and saying they're really more of a police type CAD system, CAD standing for computer aided dispatch. In knowing that and looking to the future, we would like to move more towards a firefighting. It's all encompassing. We're paying for 3 or 4 different softwares as it is, whether it's scheduling, because we do our own scheduling. We have no inventory. Fire prevention is still on FileMaker Pro, which is, as many know, was decent in the 90s and probably stopped around then. We're not even able to access that on a cloud base. What I believe this software does is, and it's for our national reporting system that we are required to fill out reports that go into the National Registry of Fire Incidents, and that's useful not only for tracking but also for our grants. If our NFIRS, National Fire Incident Reporting System, is not filled out, we are basically disqualified from all grants, federal or state. So that would be another reason for that. So this one software bridges, and it's the only software that bridges from all our data that's on IMC now over to basically a cloud service type software that's readily accessible. The idea where it makes our job easier, or the boots on the ground, as I said, the members, is it's real-time data that populates in the engine or ladder or ambulance that gives us location, and then we can actually access anything on the assessors information that they put in, any updates on the buildings, hydrant locations, water main sizes. So it's really a great add-on. It's kind of progressive to where we're at, although Sharon's been working with it. Canton goes to a different one, but all the area towns have this type of software. So it's essentially, I'd be getting rid of 3 softwares we currently pay now and put it all under one. And then we'll be able to do all our fire prevention from that one cloud-based software. So that's my goal with that. Did I leave any? I think I had.
Oh, that's it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when this was printed, it says firefighting and emergency medical services life safety equipment, $295,000. But that's actually the firefighting protective gear and the self-contained breathing apparatus
Probably
combined.
populate together, yes.
So that you actually have 4 things on your list, not 5. Now, do either of you gentlemen have a
I
question?
don't have any questions.
Yeah, this is, you mentioned about not having any inventory.
We don't have a way to track our inventory, correct? No software that does that for us. We tried on the current one, but they required, that company required to send a tech out they said it would cost approximately $10,000 to $15,000 to have them set up data banks that we could add that. And I thought that, you know, that was a little bit, so we do it on an Excel sheet, but it's
Okay,
not,
all right,
it's
okay,
not
yep.
easy to access, and it's on, it's, you know, our goal is to have it all populated once, so that, you know, we don't have to use only certain computer terminals to get to that and update and kind of give us where things need to be replaced.
Will you have to buy any special software for the vehicles to address this, this new CAD software?
No, that's all part of it,
Is it?
yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Jim, would you move your mic just a bit closer, because we can hear you, but we want the folks at home.
Oh, okay, I will do that. No, I'm good, thank you.
Folks online, questions?
If you have any questions, just raise your hands.
Mike Sullivan, did you have a question? Mike Haran?
No, I'm all set. I'm good.
What about Dawn? Okay, well, I have, the CAD software, does that integrate with the town's GPS software? I mean, the things you're talking about are all on the town's GPS.
So what it will do is it will integrate with, basically, you know, and I was talking to IT earlier, yes, so basically, same with the GIS system in town, they all work off basically the Google Map type scenario. What it does do is it does, like I can add, we can add all of like the water departments, the water mains. And why is that important? Water mains, as you know, that recent fire, multiple fires we had, we did have a water issue. Rather than trying to hook up to a hydrant and figure out why we're not getting enough water, because ideally that was only a 6-inch main and an older main, which means it has crustaceans in it and it's less than 6 inches. We could look around, just pull it up on our tablet, and it will give us that on Sharon Street on the other side of, just adjacent to that house, was a 12-inch main where we could have got as much water as we needed. So it cuts down on time, cuts down on the ability to hook up to a hydrant, find out that that's not giving us enough water supply. Okay, well, what else do? We try to pick up other hydrants. Here, we pull it up, we're like, we got a 12-inch main on Sharon Street. We'll just run it into that parking lot that where the old, I think it was a Kentucky Fried Chicken. So that's the stuff it gives us. It gives us real-time access to information.
So who's ever on, in command of the scene would have a tablet?
Yes.
And so we're gonna have to train all those folks.
Nope. Well,
It's idiot-proof? I mean, I think,
I haven't found anything idiot-proof yet, because I tested.
no, I was gonna say, because I had to learn how to use a tablet, and I consider myself a fairly intelligent person. But this is something you feel that you could pick up at the station, you don't have to have private.
So that is inclusive of any, you know, training. They also have a train the trainer type thing, but that's all included in that initial setup price.
And my last question is, since you mentioned it, does this give us access to our bordering communities? Say you're on Bay Road, and Stoughton's system is kind of not going.
It does, and you know what I really liked about it is that, so Brockton is going to it as well, so where that's important, either it's Sharon or Brockton, especially on this software, we don't have to do anything when responding. That address will populate with all information that Brockton and or Sharon has put on it. Now going to Canton, it would still pick up the same type of access, it just wouldn't give us all the information that this software gives. So any changes to the building, if they've pulled permits and put up new, you know, new structures on that, or change the stamp, where the stamp pipes are on that, that would all populate. We don't have to go through Brockton, it just automatically populates as we're responding.
Well, I'm just thinking that some of our potential areas for a huge conflagration, tend to be where we abut other communities. When I think, I mean, Stoughton and Brockton, the buildings are like this at the
Yes.
Stoughton-Brockton line.
Yes.
I'm thinking of Cobb Corner.
Yep.
And I'm thinking of Technology Drive.
Sure, so any information that they have populated, their assessors in Brockton, Sharon, but also, like Canton uses ESO, it's a different one. It just doesn't bridge IMC, so we would have to just leave all our data on that server on IMC. Here, where we go to, it's called First Due, it would bridge that, so all our information will populate. But yes, so that will be readily accessible on any of the other communities, especially the ones that are running the same software.
And for the folks on my committee that did not receive all of the information on the command vehicles, are 2012 vehicles. So, was 11 or 12 years, depending on when you bought the model. Is there anyone on the committee that has a question? Either of you gentlemen?
Yeah.
Anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard? Yes, Ms. Clip?
Karen Clip, 53 Pratt's Court. Will this also give you access to the MSD books that the businesses have? So you'll know what you're walking into?
Sure, as long as that business has updated their MDSD books. So what those are is basically those are companies that handle some sort of chemical or substance that we might have to have some sort of interactions with as far as a hazmat or other. Yes, and along with the plat guides, but that ERG book, it's an emergency response guide for our hazardous situations. That will also be on there. So all we have to do is get the plat guide number, enter that, and it'll tell us everything about that. As long as the businesses keep those up to date for us, we can update them in ours, and we'll have that information.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else from the public? Yes?
Do you seem to mention that you didn't have a database of what hydrants, what size main a hydrant hooked up to?
What we don't have, we do have it. It's on the apologize. Phil McNulty has been able to link it, like give me the access to look at that. The problem is that part of this software is to have tablets. Our trucks and our shift command, they don't have those tablets. And what I'm hoping to do is that everybody has the access to that. Once we have that, it will automatically populate for them to just pull up and look to see what is. So the town has it. We can access it if we're able to have, I carry a tablet with me, but I'd like to get the hardware aspect built out for the responding vehicles as well. All other communities around us do have it. We just don't have any of the hardware to address that for the apparatus.
Once you populate this new CAD system with that whatever you have in that database now, do you still need those tablets then?
Well, the tablets are handy. They actually they will sit on the apparatus themselves, and I would we would implement them for all responses. The best thing about those is whether it's a medical patient care reports, they can bring them right into the address, and if we've transported you before or you're in our system, and we find and God forbid we find somebody unconscious, we have their history. Okay, well this person we could easily look up address and just say Michael Carroll. Oh, he's a diabetic. Okay, so we start looking at diabetes. Maybe they had some sort of diabetes, diabetic incident where we can start treating for that or look at that and have that in their history. So the idea is to have tablets on all the books, command vehicle to have the tablets as well, so they're easily accessible the information is easily accessible to everybody on the scene.
Okay. Is there something you'd like to add?
As far as the computer software system, The beauty of this, and like the chief said earlier, is we can go to one platform. We currently have at least 5 different platforms between policy and procedure, personnel and scheduling,
Yeah, of course.
training platforms, and this is one-stop shopping for us.
Thank you. Was this the only article you wish to present?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your questions.
Next, we're doing Article 48. Chief McNamara? Thought I saw her.
Yeah, she's here somewhere. She might have stepped up. Is everybody online, hearing everything okay? Everything good?
Hi, Bob.
Okay, you're getting a little dizzy when I move the camera around, I'll try to do it slowly. You good?
This could be.
All right, great, good to hear that.
I know I saw her.
Yeah, she was here.
Yeah, she was on the phone out there and then.
All right, we can, when you see her. Yeah, wanna take a moment and see if
Well, do you know, Mr. Moderator, if she's going to present just the fire capital, or is she going to do?
Police capital, just police capital.
Okay,
I don't know if
police
she's gonna
capital.
do the police station locker room. Anybody else here for the police station locker room?
Well, the petitioner is actually,
Paul,
Paul.
you're for the police station upgrades? Sure. Okay, you're here for that? You wanna take him on just that? It's up to you, I'll leave, you're the chair.
Well, I mean,
I'll leave you alone.
is that the only article you're here for, Paul?
No, he's for,
Thank you. Well,
okay, well, we got a little bit of a lull, so.
no, I think we should,
Stop from the beginning?
I mean, if you're here and you're not here, why should everybody else cool their heels? We'll start at the top, Article 28, the Cape and Reynolds Dog Park.
Madam Chair. Thank you. This is Barry Kessler, I'm remote. Article 28 is for the Cape and Reynolds Dog Park and Community Gardens. And the presenter is Rich Terry, I don't know if he's there.
Yeah, Rich
Yeah.
Terry is here.
Rich and Michael are both here, Barry.
Okay, great, thank you.
No.
Okay, well, let me just introduce, I was gonna give a couple comments on the CPC budget. I don't know, it's not the whole article like I did with intergovernmental
So,
relations and FinCom, but.
I appreciate that, but we're
But
just
you've
gonna.
got a big busy
We've
schedule,
got
so-
22 articles,
Yeah,
so.
no, that's why I bring it up. So let me then just begin. We've got Rich Terry here to talk about the Cape and Reynolds Dog Park and Community Garden. That was voted by the CPC back on November 2nd, 8-0 unanimously in favor of the article, and I'll let Rich talk about it.
Good evening, everyone. Rich Terry, 582 Canton Street. The article is requesting $463,000.
JC, could you open that door? It's a public hearing, so we just gotta, oh, thanks, Donna.
Originally, the article in 2015, which was voted on the same night the Glen Echo was voted on, was $278,000. That budget was developed in early 2015 by the consultant that had been hired the year prior. The cost to do the survey and the engineering to develop that had to be sent out of town for private consultants because the town engineering department was overwhelmed with their existing projects as well as the Glen Echo project. And we received a letter from the town engineer in February of 2016 stating that. The town hired a outside consultant to do the survey. That came in at $40,000, much less than what they anticipated. They were expecting a 38-acre property would run around 75,000. That job was completed for 40, and it yielded wetlands that were unexpected from the previous and outdated information we had. Therefore, the pathways and walkways which would get over the sensitive wetlands had to be delayed because it was simply more than the budget could handle, considering the unexpected expense of the outside engineering. The town also hired the same firm to do the engineering of the entire dog park, community gardens, and the off-street parking. That off-street parking consisted of two places. In the barnyard front of the building on Pleasant Street, and then off of Pine Street, so that access by handicapped individuals would have close proximity to not only the dog park, but also the community gardens. The community gardens will consist of 37 raised beds to accommodate those who can't work on the ground level. There'd be a gazebo there for public speaking and other things involved with both the dog park users as well as the community garden users. The dog park will be located behind the barn. Originally, it was planned to put it underneath the high tension wires because it would take 0 trees being cut down, and the power company flat out refused to talk. And despite the fact that the engineering company, Conoco, were familiar with these people from doing business with them, they were not willing to talk. They were going to maintain their right of way, and so we had to relocate the dog park to behind the barn, which in hindsight now it was a better location. Trees do have to come down. The planning board has agreed that we will take down trees which are 6 inches in diameter at breast high, and that will provide a tremendous amount of shade for dog parks. In my survey of about 15 dog parks in the area, from Boston out to Rentham, the single biggest complaint by users whom I interviewed was the lack of shade. So we don't have to put any shade up. We have too much shade at this point. Open Space was very on board with that concept by taking down those smaller trees, as well as leaving some saplings for regrowth of the trees. The stand consists of white pine, red oak, birch, black cherry, and maple, and others I can't recall, but it's a beautiful stand which will provide that. The engineering survey ended up costing about $135,000 out of our $278. That leaves us with $120,000. Last April, despite the fact we didn't have enough money to fund this project, procurement decided to put it out to bid. And 4 bids came back. The low bidder was $548,000. That's for the entire project. This is a complex project. The off-street parking, which is absolutely necessary at that corner. The grading of the walkways and stairways to accommodate all of us, not just handicapped individuals, and unfortunately taking some of those trees down behind the barn. So, with the $548,000 that we were given as a low bid, we added 21% to that to take in for the following year, this coming spring's bid, to accommodate both the increased price of services and inflation. That brought it to $263,000. In the meantime, Conservation Committee pledged $30,000 from funds that they have available for those kinds of discretionary moves. The Friends of the Cape and Reynolds Farm, which I'm a member of, has pledged $50,000 to help offset some of the expenses. In addition to that, there's a foundation called the Stoughton Foundation, which we were not aware of when we first started this project back in 2014 in the conceptual side. We found out well into the project that this private foundation funds up to 10 dog parks for municipalities in Massachusetts per year, and they'll fund 90% of the design and engineering and construction hard costs, or a max of $225,000. We contacted them, and they were very willing to work with us, even though we've got most of the engineering done. They, the town manager appointed our procurement officer as the contact person for this foundation, which is one of the foundation's requirements. So Fran Bertinetti has been involved from that point. The Stanton Foundation has some very particular requirements of dog parks. They've done this so many times throughout the state. One is they want the fencing to be at least 5 feet tall. Ours typical is 4 feet, but they realize that some dogs can jump, and they want to make sure the dogs are inside. Secondly, there's 2 parts to the dog park, one for small dogs and one for larger dogs. Small dogs tend to be a nuisance to the big dogs and creates problems. Our plan already had that in it. Also a unleashing gated area, double gated, so that the dogs could not get away from the dog owner or the dog handler. That was also in our original plan. Some of the other things that the Stanton Foundation likes to have in the plan that they will support is ground cover should be something easily maintained, like stone dust. All of the dog parks that we had interviewed used for probably all but 2 wood chips. Stanton Foundation felt that wood chips are inexpensive, they're plentiful, however, it's difficult to clean up after your dog droppings, and stone dust is a lot more manageable and more enduring. So those are some of the things that they've asked us to add to the project.
Why don't we, for the sake of time, have you respond to questions?
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The entrance to the property, is it gonna mainly be on Pine Street or Pleasant Street?
The larger of the parking spaces will be off of Pleasant Street in front of the barn.
Because of that, that turn is, that's a dangerous turn.
Exactly. When the plan was originally devised, the parking area to accommodate, I believe, 11 spaces was going to be in the existing driveway. And we decided as a group that it should be moved further down towards the barnyard. And once that was done, that went through the planning board a year ago last August, and they felt that was adequate for a line of sight for that corner.
Now, will there be any work done to the house itself, or,
That's outside the scope of this particular warrant.
well, I'm talking about, are there gonna be like restrooms?
No, there won't be any restrooms, but there will be a portable lavatory.
Okay,
Yeah, that is part of the plan.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any increase in scope from what I voted on in 2015?
No, there's no increase in scope, but we did have to delay the pathways and the bridges because the wetlands were, after the survey was completed by their botanist, was more extensive than we anticipated. And so right before we even get into the engineering of the dog park, community garden, and on-street parking, we knew that had to be delayed.
The power lines that run, they're on a right-of-way of the Cape and Reynolds property?
Yes,
And they wouldn't talk to you about it?
they would not talk to us.
That's interesting.
Even though we suggested we'd put 2 large gates, double gates on either end so they could get through it if they had to. It wasn't, no conversation.
And moving the dog park now behind the barn, there was some talk early on, or at least in 2015, about footpaths for people to go kind of trekking around the place. Is that going to affect, is that going to be affected by this doggy park now?
No, it won't be. The planned pathways and bridges were outside that area completely, and went as far as Daw School and all the way over to Glenacle Boulevard.
I don't remember any wetlands at all being mentioned way back when.
Well, there's a lot of wetlands. There's actually a brook that runs across
Yeah,
Pine Street.
yeah.
And that brook is more extensive than it meets the eye. And based on that survey that was done by Conoco Engineering, the wetlands were more extensive than anyone anticipated.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other members of the committee? Michael Sullivan? Michael Haran, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. How many parking spaces are you talking about total?
I believe there's 11 on the Pleasant Street side, and there will be 3 or 4 on the Pine Street side, 2 of which will be handicapped, which the planning board have signed off on.
And you're pretty sure that'll be sufficient?
Well,
My concern is that you get more than 15 cars there on a Saturday morning, the gardeners and the dog people. You do wind up with people then parking on the streets and et cetera. There's a concern.
well, the old saying, if you build it, they'll come, and that seems to be the rule when you put up a complex project like this. In my surveys in the other towns, I went to Randolph's Dog Park, and they have a much larger space. It's not bituminous asphalt as we are required in this town, and it's in a very irregular shape, and to the eye, it looks like it would accommodate maybe 15 or 20 vehicles. But when I measured it, I realized it was probably 11 to 12. The parking space that we have on Pleasant Street is designed to the spec, the width and length, to meet the standards of cars today. Many of the dog parks have signs, and it says, if there is no parking, please go to some other dog park, don't park on the street. Randolph has that sign. So this is a problem, it's a good problem, but it's a problem of dog parks typically.
My only other question, you said there will be water available
Yes.
for gardeners?
Yes, I didn't say that, but there is water on the site.
I saw a line about availability of water. I just wanted to check to see if there's gonna be ongoing
Yes.
water for people with the,
Actually, water is going to be provided to the gardeners as well as to the dog park, and the water will be available to both the dog and the dog handler. And that's a requirement that we imposed. The Stoughton Foundation also has that same requirement.
Anything else, Michael?
thanks very much. That's it.
Arlene? My only comment is,
Sure.
Cynthia, could I just interrupt you for a second? For the committee members, from here on, the secretary has asked, could you just state your name and precinct number? Just so she has it for the record, and it's easy for her to, because she might not be able to hear, or, she can hear you, but she can't see you clearly. And also the public, people do ask questions, if you could just state your name and address, it's just for the record, appreciate that. I apologize for interrupting you guys. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Arlene, do you have a question?
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I thought you called.
My comment is, I think you'll find stone dust is a lot better than wood chips for folks in wheelchairs or having strollers. We found at the golf course, we put stone dust on a lot of our pathways so that folks who need to don't have to stumble around in the dirt or the mud or whatever. So I think they probably had thought of that, the foundation. Any other questions from the committee?
Cynthia? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good.
John DeStefano, Precinct 2. I'm just concerned about the parking. Like Michael said, on a nice Saturday and Sunday day, 11 parking spaces isn't gonna be, I know it's not gonna be enough.
I agree.
They're gonna be parking on the street.
Well,
So,
it's no place to really park on the street there. The
I
street-
mean-
the side street's very narrow.
how big are these parking spaces? Are they regular sized parking spaces?
They
I
are
live up-
regular sized parking spaces, just like here. There is a standard code parking spaces which this town has to follow.
Because I live at Walnut Park, and, we made our parking spots smaller to squeeze in maybe like 10 more. I mean, I don't think you're gonna need 10 more parking spaces, I'm just saying, I don't think 11 spaces is gonna be enough.
I agree with you, it's not gonna be enough. However, it meets the zoning bylaws of the property. The size of the parking spots are, I think, 9 feet wide by 20 feet deep, is that correct? Okay. In addition, we have bollards installed in the barnyard area to protect the carriage shed and the barn itself, so that if someone inadvertently backs up too quickly, there is a steel bollard that will stop them. They'll be painted with all kinds of reflective paint so that it can be easily seen. in all the dog parks that I've attended, except for one, that was in Rentham, it was about a 10-acre field. Parking was not an issue. All of them had limited parking. And everyone whom I spoke with, actually members of the committees that were involved in building that dog park in Franklin, for example, very willing to talk, all said that was similar, they had the same problem. City of Boston, South Boston, down by Sullivan's Clam Shack, there's a dog park right next to that big loading docks for the ships. And there's no parking, yet the place is extremely well attended by people who can walk there. So it's a universal problem. We can't solve it, neither can they.
So this is basically a sun up, sundown.
Yes, and that's a town ordinance,
Okay.
like Faxon Park, dusk to dawn, dawn to dusk.
Okay.
And that will be well posted. In addition, the planning board felt it was there, they expected us to have other lighting in the event someone's got so involved with what they're doing, either with their dog or with their gardening, and all of a sudden it's dark. Because you know, light, you don't see it coming. So posts with solar powered lamps have been installed in strategic places so they can get back to the parking area. So I have to say, a year ago last year, the planning board added some elements that we didn't anticipate, but they were the right elements.
Jim, you wanted something?
Yeah, Jim Guerin, Precinct 6. This Stanton Foundation grant, do they have special requirements they're going to require?
Yes, he's already said that.
Yeah,
Yes, as a matter of fact,
I'm talking about the cost of that.
not the cost, simply the additional elements in the dog park itself, such as we didn't include seating capabilities within the dog park, the fenced-in area. We had it outside. They wanted it inside. That's a small add-on. They also insisted that there be more trash receptacles inside the fenced area as opposed to outside. We had plenty there. They said, in their experience, dog owners are not the neatest people in the world, and everybody, tends to drop things or just put it in a pile, and they want to avoid that. They like to have, they feel a clean dog park is a welcoming dog park. I have to agree.
My question is, do their special requirements going to cost more money than you had anticipated earlier?
Yes, it's gonna cost, first of all, they've recommended a landscape architect do the engineering for these additional elements. The landscape architect that was our consultant in 2014 and 2015, Bernie Gober of Gober Associates of Walpole, unfortunately passed away a year ago. And so we can't go to him and ask him to help us. So the Stoughton Foundation was kind enough about a week and a half ago to give to me a landscape architect whom they've used on recent project, most recently in Saugus, which Saugus was awarded a fairly large grant from the Stoughton Foundation. And that landscaping architect, Warner Larson, has communicated with us that for their services, they'll charge $5,500 to add these elements in, which will be part of the CAD/CAM bid set. That money can't come out of the current funding we have, so the Friends of the Cape and Reynolds Farm have agreed to pay for that.
Okay, all right, okay. I
Matter of fact, the
understand.
letter's gonna be going to the town select board, requesting they accept our donation for that portion.
I'm good now, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anyone in the audience with a question? Ms. Cliff?
Karen Click, 53 Pratt's Court. My concern is the parking. I travel that intersection quite frequently. My husband goes back and forth to work through that. He works in Randolph. It's a very dangerous intersection. I think we're doing ourselves a disfavor. We may be looking at a light down in the future because people are gonna use the garden. I've gone by many of them in different communities. They're well attended. And those people don't just stay for an hour. They're usually there for a couple hours because they're taking care of their own food source. And I'm concerned dog owners don't stay for 30 minutes or an hour. They stay for a couple hours. It's a social event for them. I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. We should relook at the parking and ask them, we're over by the handicap spot, I think it would behoove us to take more trees down and make parking over that way instead of coming out into the busy intersection. That's my only opinion I have on that. Otherwise, I voted for this when I was at town meeting. I'm coming into town meeting again this year, hopefully people will vote for me in precinct 8, but I'll vote for this again if you make those changes. Thank you.
Ms. Carrara?
Sorry, it is tight quarters, I know.
Stephanie Carrara, Precinct 2. I am no longer a town meeting rep, but I reluctantly voted for this back in 2015. And I asked the question in front of FinCom the other night, and perhaps not Rich or Michael, but Mark can answer this question for me, our town engineer, and who, interim town manager at the time, I believe. Mark, they changed the spot where this was going. This, where they were gonna do the original dog park, okay? So, I feel I voted on something, and I can only speak for myself at the time, and the reason why I'm coming and concerned about this is because I have friends and family that live in that area. So they're talking to me, that's why I'm bringing these items forward. So my question is, if we voted to have something here, and now we're gonna have it over here, and it's a little different parking and all the, you know, the different items that they're gonna have, shouldn't that go back to town meeting? Or did we get a, opinion from town council saying, hey, you know what, you don't need to? I just want that to be clarified in black and white, because that's what's bothering me, because I voted for something reluctantly and told my family about it, and now we've changed it. And the barn, I mean, growing up in that area, the barn is close to the street. I disagree that we're gonna put up signs and say, go somewhere else if there's no parking. People are gonna be like, poo-poo, I wanna take my dog here. That's just human nature. It's like, you know, a kid, you tell a kid, don't touch that, it's hot, and what do? You know, so I just feel that that is something that we really need clarification on. Because if that has to come back to town meeting, then the plan that Michael and Rich are talking about, and with the Victory Gardens and all that stuff. Did I date myself saying Victory Gardens? I don't know. But I think that we should have it black and white, because I feel that when we voted on this before, we were all concerned about the power lines, and they were saying, oh, no, no problem, no problem. The electric company, they're gonna let us do that, no sweat. It's an easement, they're not gonna let us. But I reluctantly voted for it, and to be honest with you, with all these questions that I have, I wish that I didn't.
Would you let him answer?
Yep, just a minute. And then, I agree with John DeStefano about that curve. I grew up down there, we used to go skating on Hills Pond, and there's a big tree in it now, I wish they would take it out, so if there was little kids in the area, they could still skate on it, but it's not my property. But, there was an accident there when I was in high school, and you can still see the cutout in the wall. And there was another accident there that a car flipped over when I lived down there. So the parking, I have to agree with everybody, the parking plan, and I understand that you've worked on it and you've worked really hard and it's been so long, but for a dog park, I think it's a little pricey, not gonna lie. That's just my opinion, and I would just, my biggest thing is I want something from council to say that they don't need to, and we get a letter so that that can be presented at town meeting for other people that have that same concern.
Do you have an answer?
He does, but he needs a microphone.
Did you want me to go up there, or?
Yeah.
Alright.
Go ahead, you stay.
Good evening, Mark Tisdale, Director of Development Services, Town Engineer. First, to be clear, I certainly wasn't the town manager at the time this article came forward, and
I'm
did-
sorry, I thought you were.
I did not-
apologize.
no, that's okay, and I did not design the project either.
No, I know you didn't.
So, just to want to clarify it for the public. It did go through a project approval through Conservation Commission, through Planning Board. They're the ones that require certain features on the site. For this particular property, I thought the planning board, even though they did require some additional changes, it did come out good in the end, because the parking, now, instead of people driving straight in, right, and then backing up onto Pleasant Street, or parking on the side of Pleasant Street now, which is very unsafe parallel-wise, these cars are speeding past Pleasant Street. There's a standard size parking lot with standard size parking spaces where everybody can pull in, back out, and pull out frontwards. There's actually, I think, vertical granite curbing, if I'm correct?
That's correct.
Wrapping that parking lot and comes out onto the street to buffer those vehicles even more, and leaving the site and the cars on the street. So I think the parking lot is an improvement overall. Again, the size will, I guess, be determined in the future on the use of the park. I do know there are tight grades where the dog park is now, because the dog park was in the N-Star easement, I think, Eversource easement, and they said pretty much no. They had to move it closer to the barn, where if you wanted to have overflow parking spaces, that would have been the spot to probably do it. But now the dog park's there. Plus, there was grade changes to fight with. There's a retaining wall on the side of the road, things of that nature. There is area in the back, maybe in the future, they could construct additional parking spaces if they're seeing those parking spaces be completely used. But I look at these articles, and at town meeting, generally, the way I look at them is, a lot of these plans that are generated early on are conceptual plans. They're not designed by a civil engineer, they're not surveyed, they're prepared by landscape architects, and they're kind of like a cartoon sketch. So I would just say, generally, these things are meant to change over time. If the project still entails a parking lot, a community garden, and a dog park. The locations of things are tweaked a little bit, but that happens during a design process.
So that's a normal process.
Yeah, I think it
Okay.
is.
That's
So,
all I needed to know,
And again,
because
the N-Star easement is a concern, yeah, they may have given somebody the perception at one point in time that you can't put a dog park here, and now you can't. So I think the committee did a great job using the area they had, and the planning board did a decent job shaping the project. So, but that is not a legal opinion, that's just a Mark opinion.
No, I understand that. I just wanted clarification.
Thank
Let me
you.
just ask you one more question, if I may. Across the street, when you go down Pine Street, so the dog park is gonna be on the right-hand side, like I'm coming from Pleasant Street down. On the left-hand side, on that open field, is anything going there?
Not sure, I know where you're talking about.
When you, Michael, do you know where I'm talking about? So like, you're coming in, making the turn from Pleasant Street, taking a left onto Pine Street. So there's Cape and Reynolds. And when you go down, there's a wall, and then there's a big open field.
Is that
like,
part of the property?
It's part of Cape, I believe it's part of Cape and Reynolds.
The property is on either side of Pine Street, from Daw School to Glenical Boulevard. The area that you were talking about, as you go down Pine Street,
Yeah.
on the left, that is Cape property,
Yeah.
but it's wet.
Yeah, I thought it was.
There's a brook there, we had
Yeah.
a community garden there about 20 years ago, and it was either too wet or too dry, and so
Yeah,
it's
'cause
not
the-
a good place for
The pond overflows, and
Right.
we used to skate there too. Okay, I just didn't know if like part of that was gonna be for parking.
Thank
That's
you.
all my questions, thank you.
And I would point out that this, if enough people feel, as some of the previous speakers do, they'll vote no on the article. So people are getting a second bite of the apple. And we have a different, some of the membership has changed too. So, we shall see in May. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief McNamara, we're gonna let you jump the line for your police capital items. We have police station upgrades, cruisers. Oh, short list.
Good evening, everyone. Chief Donna McNamara from the Stoughton Police Department. How would you like me to do this? Would you like me to go through, or would you? The 3 cruisers, it's with the policy for the town to replace the cruisers for emergency vehicles. And the upgrades to the community room, believe you have all the documentation, but I have some additional that I can give you.
Could you just announce what article we're on for the public?
It's,
48.
48.
48. Police capital.
No, we did get, I got some things about, for Motorola Solutions, is that who's going to do the work inside, or that was your quote for,
So you would have McGovern for the vehicle itself, for the cruisers.
yes.
You would
we
then
those.
have a quote for the computers
Is that what,
in the cruisers, and then Motorola Solutions would be the additional radio that goes inside the cruiser.
okay. And so what would be the police station? Those are all,
So it would start with the audio video experts, CCS, that documentation. If you don't have that, I can provide that for you. That's one of the items for the upgrade for the community room. No?
I probably do too, I just am not flipping the pages fast enough here. So,
That's all right, Chief, I'll get you later.
I can post that right
okay,
here.
I found
Just
video
balance
equipment, audio equipment. So this is for the community room?
Yes,
I know that you use that room for training,
correct.
so is that, for a while you were using VCR, so now you're moving on up.
So we would be putting in some additional audio equipment and projector that we got a quote through in accompanying with the IT department, Trish Shropshire.
Yes, we did get that.
Okay. Additionally, we have some furniture that I was given a quote that you have not received, that I just got today.
Is that furniture for the community room or?
Yes, tables and chairs. Yep.
Okay.
So I can give that out as well. But I can go through the items that we're going to be replacing if you want me to, or
Does anyone need to know
With the
how many
assistance of
chairs
Paul
and
Jaffoon.
tables?
No, good.
How many are there now?
we have about 35 tables and then probably 60 chairs, 65.
So you're replacing all of them?
Yes, yep. They're all existing from when we moved into the building 25 years ago. They're not quite as comfortable as these chairs that we're sitting in, to be honest. And to
Why
sit,
don't you just borrow these?
to sit in a chair for 8 hours in a class, yeah, it's
Makes it tough.
it's not very enjoyable, so.
Okay, anybody else with a question here?
Hang on.
Jim?
I'm looking at the article, the Jim Guerin, Precinct 6. I'm looking at this article, Police Capital, and it says Police Station Upgrade 75,000. Is that the same 75,000 that's over here at, on Article 44?
I believe 44 is for the,
Lockers.
for the locker rooms, which includes some plumbing and some other issues that facilities manager Paul Jaffoon is
Not the same.
upgrading. It's not the same.
No, I mean, it just says upgrades, upgrades, that's all, I just don't.
Well, she's just saying it's upgrades basically to the community room.
So currently, right now, in my one of my locker rooms, I don't have enough lockers for all the police officers that I have. And we're trying to do some things to move some plumbing around, some sinks, toilets, and some other, for that article that you're referring to.
Thank you.
How many female officers are there now, including yourself?
I believe we're up to 10.
I remember when my sister used to have to change in the female prisoner's bathroom.
I do remember that as well.
And bring her own paper towels. The good old days. John, did you have other questions?
Not right now.
And Jim?
No, I'm good.
Michael Sullivan? Michael Haran,
I'm good, thank you.
Dawn, Arlene,
Yeah, all set, thank you.
okay, so that looks like everyone,
Who's this?
Hello?
yes,
Yes, Peter Murphy, precinct 2. The only comment I have is.
1 second, Peter. Peter, hang on 1 sec. Are you all done with the committee?
yeah, it appears I'm done with the committee except for myself, it's
Did you have a
just that, I'm very pleased we need more room in the women's locker room. I think that, female officers bring a different perspective on top of all of the normal things we expect from police officers. So, a lot of this increase has happened under your watch, so I thank you very much. In the olden days, when a woman, especially a very young child or an older woman, had a crime committed against them, having to speak to only male officers, I was in that situation. I was uncomfortable, and I think it's important that we won't find out what problems women and small children in our community are having unless they feel comfortable coming forward with what's happening to them, whether it's at home or at school or out on the street. And so the more diverse, I guess, I'll say our police force is racially, ethnically, and gender-wise, the better it is for the public. And someone, yes, we're opening it up to the public now, Peter Murphy.
Okay, my only Peter Murphy, precinct 2, the only comment that I really have of concern is on the back, there's a banner on the bottom of the TV screen, and the phone-in call number does not match the number that's on the agenda. So anybody that's watching TV really can't call in using that number. So, I mean, that's my only comment.
We'll get that changed, Peter, ASAP. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I also read the correct number before the meeting started.
Nobody wrote it down.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public with a question or comment? Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much for
Thank
your
you, Chief.
patience, Chief. And since it's along the same lines, why don't we move down to Article 44, the police station locker room upgrades.
Now, this is Article 44, correct?
Yeah. Evidently, I need new fingers. I'm not, oh, here it is. Okay, Paul.
Okay, thank you. Paul Jaffoon, DPW Superintendent, also Facilities Manager. As the chief mentioned, this is to create more space and storage lockers for the female locker room at the police station. Some miscellaneous plumbing, miscellaneous construction, adding a door, and the purchase and install of the new lockers. That's really it.
How many lockers?
Yeah, it depends on how we can move things around. We'll wait till the last minute, but we're hoping to add at least 5 or 6 more lockers to the locker room. We don't have an added square footage, so we're trying to move things around in order to get those lockers in there.
Okay. Well, I think think that the public probably realizes that all 10 female officers don't work the same shift. So that we don't need a room, well, we do need, so we still need enough lockers for them.
Correct.
So the lockers, if I can speak for the chief, are also for female dispatchers,
Oh, yeah.
staff. So it's not just the number of officers, but
So the lockers for the police officers are bigger than the lockers for staff or any of the dispatchers because of all the equipment. So it's, each individual officer can't share a locker because they're securing their equipment in that locker. So the lockers are twice the size for police officers as they are for the civilian staff.
Yeah, I didn't mean they'd share lockers, we're not in high school.
Yeah.
I just meant that the square footage, doesn't have to be enough for 10 people to stand there at one time.
We have, we probably have 2/3 of our female officers just happen to be on the day shift right now.
Oh.
And so, yeah, there's days where there might be six individuals in the locker room, and it's not that big if you've been in there.
No, I haven't, I think I missed that on the tour or the haunted house or whatever. Questions from the committee?
Yeah, I have a question. John DeStefano, Precinct 2. When that when that police station was built, was the female locker room part of, was it there already? Was
Yes.
it built?
Yes.
So how many was it built for when it was
12.
12?
I believe there's 12 lockers in there. And we ran out of lockers for everybody that have police equipment. And then we added some really narrow, small ones for the civilian staff. Actually, I think there's 10 lockers because they're double wide.
And they store their equipment in their 24?
Additional jackets, uniforms, boots, patrol bag, everything that they're issued, that's the place that they get to keep it. Because they share cruisers, so everything that they bring in for the beginning of their shift, as far as their equipment that they take with them, they take out of the cruiser at the end of the day, secure it in their locker.
Yeah, but they shouldn't have to share a locker. They should have their own locker.
And at this point,
No, they're not going to.
I have one officer that's, doesn't have a locker right now.
Jim?
no, I'm good.
Okay, folks at home, Michael Sullivan?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank
Michael
you.
Haran?
Okay.
Dawn? Arlene?
All set, thank you.
Members of the public? Members of the public in the audience? Okay, thank you, both. Now, Paul, do you have any others?
I do. Four, I just finished. 42 through 6.
Is it possible that we do 47 so that I can stay for Mark?
Okay, out of deference to the chief, we'll do Article 47.
Good evening.
Good
Mark
evening.
Tisdale, Director of Development Services. I'm here on behalf of Trish Shropshire, Director of IT. Unfortunately, she could not make it tonight. She had a prior commitment. Generally, in a nutshell, what this article will be funding is moving the server for the police department from Town Hall to the police department. Also, it will be, with the move, the phone system will be actually moving over also, which is an added benefit. There'll be additional switches added to the server system. It is outdated for the type of technology Donna uses these days. I know Donna's gonna say this much better than I am, but when we recently had the flood too, the phone system I think kicked out because it's located near this other system, and now we're gonna be able to move the phone system near the server at the police department, which will be great for emergency purposes, obviously.
So just the entire server being over at the town hall and moving it over into our building is at the request of our IT, and it's a building that's occupied 24/7, so when we were going through this was a request, if I could, work it into our building, and, I accommodated phone system being at the police station where there's always somebody there. And unfortunately, we saw that, the, town hall was not occupied when it had the flood, even though it wasn't a long period of time, but it was a period of time that no one knew what was going on, so.
Question,
I have
John?
no questions.
Question, Jim?
Yes, Jim Guerin, Precinct 6. Is this WCA quote the only bid you got?
Yes.
So
It'll
you-
be rebid, that's just an estimate.
Well, I understand that, yeah. Well, yeah, the fact is, though, I thought we were supposed to get five quotes on things before we,
When they go out for bid, they'll follow the procurement rules and regulations.
okay, all right, okay, so that's, all right, so that's preliminary. Good, thank you.
Anything else, Jim?
No.
Michael Sullivan? Michael Haran?
Good.
Dawn?
I'm good.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
I don't have any questions. It sounds good to have, this important communication in two different places. Because unless somebody really, I suppose town hall and the police station are pretty close together, but, in case of fire or flood, I'll say. Anyone in the audience? Anyone at home? Thank you both, or all three of
Thanks
you.
very
Well,
much.
you're gonna stay. What are we doing next,
Thank you,
Paul?
Chief.
42?
42 to 46.
No, I think he said 40, he has to be here for 42.
Yep.
Through 43, 44, 45, so we might as well let him warm the seat.
Yeah, 46 too.
So you're here, you just wanna do 46 now, or do you wanna do 42? And just do them in a row?
Sure, that's it.
Yeah, I think we'll just go do them in a row.
So.
We don't wanna disrupt my filing system.
Okay.
You wanna just announce which one you're gonna do?
We're going to, deal with the Superintendent of Public Works for Articles 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46.
So if I could just add to that, Article 42 is Public Works Capital Equipment Purchases, for the record.
Yep, and I think we just went over 44, so.
Oh,
So you wanna go with 42? Okay.
yes, please.
All right.
I'm glad someone's keeping track.
So, equipment that we like to purchase, a tow-behind hot box, for miscellaneous paving that we have to do, paving potholes, trenches, whether it be water, sewer, drain, trenches, in conjunction with those departments. Just something we really need. I believe the hot box we have now is a 1989, and, we're lacking parts inventory when we need repairs, so this is something that's definitely needed. Also, there's 2 foreman's trucks in here. You'll see budget quote from CMG. So those 2 trucks that will be replaced will actually go in the line. They have plows, they're dump body trucks right now, so they'll still be very useful for us, so we won't be trading them in. We're just gonna equip the foreman with better trucks that have utility bodies now instead of the dump bodies.
And what's the amount on those? Just for the-
88,000
Just so people.
and change,
Okay.
yep. 2,
Two of them?
yep,
With plows.
correct,
Is it 88,000 per, or,
yes.
okay.
And you're gonna retain the existing?
Why don't we let him
I'm sorry,
finish?
I'm sorry.
And I believe there's another truck in here for, development.
Multi-use utility
Yeah,
vehicle?
that's for, the development services, but since the Public Works handles the fleet, that's under here, under Article 42, capital for the Public Works
In the amount?
is, it was 40,
50,000 it
yeah,
says here.
just under 50,000.
Thank you. I just don't have all the information in front of me, just with people. And on TV too, so they know. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for questions. John?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Jim?
Yes, Jim Guerin, Precinct 6. Are you going to retain the two vehicles that you're buying these, replacing with these two pickup trucks?
Yes.
That's okay. Wow. And what's gonna happen with those? What are they gonna?
They'll become just everyday drivers, work trucks. They also have plows, so we'll put drivers in the seats when it's time to plow.
Okay, we have a lot of vehicles in town, it's just, yeah, okay, two more. Okay, thank you.
Michael Sullivan?
No, no questions, thank you.
Michael Haran?
How's that, thanks?
Dawn?
How's that?
Arlene?
How's that, thank you.
Okay, I wasn't clear on the multi-use utility vehicle with CAP. It's used by, development services?
Yes, Mark, do you wanna speak to that?
Mark Tisdale, Director of Development Services. Yes, this truck will be rolled into our pool vehicles for inspectional services. It'll primarily be used because we have a cap on it. We have a cap on it for a specific reason. It's for storage of sealers and weights and measures equipment and some survey equipment that we usually don't want to lug back and forth from vehicles into the building every time we use it. We are taking seals of weights and measures in-house now. It used to be done by the state, so now we've bought in containers and weights and different equipment, scales, a lot of different fun-looking items that we need to put in the back of the truck. We also will use it for some excess survey equipment. A lot of times we also go on construction sites. Many times we go on construction sites for inspections, and a truck is more preferable than the low cars we have right now for obvious reasons. So this truck will get used by the entire fleet of pool by everybody in the pool.
Thank you. Any more questions from the committee?
What year are John Stoughton, Precinct 2, sorry. The trucks that are being replaced, what year are they?
Yeah, this is actually an additional vehicle. It's part of for our pool, because we have a different service we're providing now. Yep.
Jim?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Anyone from the committee with further questions? Anyone? Arlene, did you have one?
No, I did not. I'm all
Okay.
set, thank you.
I don't have any questions. Anyone from the public?
I have a question.
Yes.
Bob Mullen, Clover Lane, Stoughton. Mark, you mentioned the weights and measures or sealed, are we have to hire a new person for that?
No, it's a great question.
Right.
Sean in our Board of Health Department is taking that on
Okay.
for obviously a stipend, but the stipend's much less than we paid the state for performing those services in the past.
How much did we pay the state?
About 12,000.
So what's he getting for a stipend?
7.
7, okay.
Yeah, we actually reduced our costs substantially, so.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Okay, thank you. And I guess we move on to 43. Town buildings and facilities maintenance and upgrade, $75,000.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Articles 43 and 46 are very, very similar. Really just for any extraordinary things that may happen during the year or not necessarily year, but near not too distant future that if anything happens to any of the buildings and/or the equipment inside them, we will have money on hand to readily repair them. We, as many people know, we have older buildings with older systems. I think we've done a decent job trying to maintain and replace as needed. So this is kind of a extra added cushion to supplement the fiscal year budget. Again, along with Article 46, very, very similar.
Okay, for the public's edification, Article 45, no, we're doing.
43.
Article 43 is town buildings and facilities maintenance and upgrades. So that's the buildings. And then Article 46 is extraordinary repairs to the fleet. So those are the vehicles and equipment. And we're putting them together. John, did you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Jim?
No, I don't, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you wanna see these people?
Yes. Michael Sullivan?
All set.
Michael Haran?
Good, I give.
Dawn?
I'm all set.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
Okay. Why couldn't you just, when something happens, go to the Finance Committee? I'm assuming if, or is this is just, it says extraordinary maintenance. Wouldn't that be something that you'd have to go to the FinCom for?
Well, even if we went to the FinCom, there's still a process and a duration of time that may not be amenable to repairing as quickly as possible.
I have to tell you that the town manager was very impressed during the Great Flood, how you had everything on your phone to contact, or tablet, whichever you were using, to contact all the people that needed to be contacted immediately. It was, we didn't, well, am I dating myself when I say the phone book or the yellow pages? But the fact is that you were ready for a disaster, and a disaster happened, and you handled it, and he was impressed by that. And as a taxpayer and as a resident, I'm very happy whatever we did or you did to kind of minimize some of the damage. The faster we could get everything unwet, dried off, was very important, especially when you talk about fungus and mold and all of that good stuff. And when we get back into town hall, they should have a ribbon cutting, and you should be able to put your hands on the big scissors. So thank you.
We're gonna let you do it, I think, Ms. Walsh.
No, I think they'd put up a bar to keep me out. So now we're on Article 45, which is road resurfacing.
Yes. Last paving season, last construction season, we paved 18 streets for about $1.4 million, I believe it was. Some of the roads in town are in major need of repairs. So this is an effort to pave 33 additional streets, which will supplement our Chapter 90 appropriation, which is a good start at trying to keep up and maintain the roadways, but it's not nearly enough in 2023 for the amount in which we receive annually.
I don't have internet access, but do you put on the town's website the streets that you're going to be doing with kind of a coming soon?
I believe the map that is in,
Yeah, we
in
got-
your hair.
We
I believe
did-
that's on the website. If it's not, well, we certainly will.
I think, it might cut down on the complaints if somebody knew their street was going to be done sometime within a year. Also, it might cut down on the complaints if someone knew their street's going to be done next week and they'll have to find another way to get their kids to school.
We don't get any complaints.
So, when I call, nobody writes anything down?
Uh-oh.
I agree with you. We will get some stuff up there, and normally we send out letters, a month or
Yeah.
less than a month in advance to give them. But
Well, I mean, I get questions. People
Yeah.
assume that I know everything, and I like to maintain that illusion. John, a question?
You actually asked the question I was gonna ask.
Jim?
Yeah, Jim Guerin, Precinct 6. 2, maybe 3 years ago, I live in West Stoughton, and my street was on that list to be paved. Well, we never got paved. And now I see a new list, and we're not on it any longer. There's Charles Circle and Donald Road are beat up, and have been that way for a long, long time. The last time they did anything down there, they poured a strip of hot top right down the middle, and all it did was destroy the drainage on the road. I'd like to see at least my street put back on this thing here, because it looks like we've been skipped over now.
So, is your street one of those roads you mentioned?
Sorry?
Is your street one of the roads that you
I
mentioned?
live on Donald Road, yeah.
Okay, so I can speak to this, and I know that Mr. McNulty is in the back of the room. Certainly, we know that neighborhood is in need of repairs on the street. The thing that's holding us up is the underground work, the utility work that needs to happen, water mains and such. So, it's I believe we are planning to do that in the near future. I don't know how near is, but the near future, and then after that, the plan would be to repave the streets.
Is that fair? I know it's a little bit out of turn with the water stuff, but it is scheduled, for the article that's,
Would you be able to come up and use one of the microphones, Phil?
sure, Phil McNulty,
No complaints, huh?
yes, Article 54 is for water mains and the, Donald and Charles, and I think, Lakewood, might be all three of those
Yeah, well,
proposed in
that's,
that
yeah,
group.
that's okay.
But like Paul says, no sense in paving if we're gonna go do the water mains first. So they need to be, we've been working together, try to sequence, the paving and the water work.
So the streets that are being paved, that are on the schedule to be paved now, they're all done with that sort of thing?
We're still working on it, but for the most part, yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out why my street was skipped over and then dismissed from this thing here.
Yeah, I can answer that. It's, the money was, I asked for 3 million last year, only got 2, and that's simple as that.
Well, it doesn't
Yeah.
hit my street, okay.
Anyone else on the committee? John, Michael Sullivan?
Not a question, just a comment. Very happy to see this article. There's a lot of streets around town that are in dire need of paving, and state chapter 90 money just doesn't cut it. So, we pay a lot of taxes every year as taxpayers in this town. It's good that we're investing in our road program. So, fully supportive of this. No question. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Haran?
Thank you.
Dawn?
I'm all set, thanks.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone else from the public in the room? Oh,
Right here.
Mr. Moderator?
Well, as a member of the public, Bob Mullen, Clover Lane, I noticed that 3 of the streets in my neighborhood are on there. Now, if I don't mention people watching this from my neighborhood, will tell me I didn't speak up on their behalf. So half the neighborhood's gonna be really happy with you. The other half's not gonna be very happy. We're all paying about the same amount of taxes. My only suggestion would be do the whole neighborhood, otherwise, you're gonna have, you know, there's one street, Bramble Bush is real bad. Every time that, he lives across the street from me, and I'm on the corner of Bramble Bush and Clover Lane, and, just, you know, I don't know what you call it, but the crack seal of the goo, we call it the goo. You
Yeah.
can drive down there and your car is bumping all over the place. I mean, it doesn't really help. And I know you're doing the best you can with the resources you have, I understand that. But I'm just saying that when you put that goo down, and next year, the cracks reappear. They don't really last long. But it creates a bumpy road. And it really temporarily solves it for 1 year, but then it just opens up again. And Bramble Bush is a long road, and there's a gentleman across the street from me, his water cap, whatever it is on the street, is been paved a couple times, a patch. It's a mess all the time, and I hear when the UPS trucks go by, everybody hears in the neighborhood, the bumpity bump, because, you know, that section of the road's a mess. All the streets in the neighborhood all have that goo on it, and you know, you just, I'm sure you hear it from everybody. Hopefully, the remainder of the neighborhood get on the streets next time around, that's all I'm saying.
You're gonna
And
have
of
to
course, all the, like Mr. Sullivan said, everybody's complaining now, because it's been a while, but you're making a good effort.
This is an attempt to try and correct that.
We appreciate that.
John, you said you had one
I have
last
a
question?
Yes. You have a timetable when Central Street between Pearl and West Street is gonna be done? And exactly what is going on in front of the Wilkins School?
New sidewalks.
Mark Tisdale, Director of Development Services. That's projected to be completed this summer.
Okay.
Yep.
And what are they exactly are they doing in front of the Wilkins School? Because I drive by there every day and I can't figure it out.
Yeah, they're creating a big pool. No, it's a good question. Where the hill is,
Yeah.
they're creating additional parking spots that are conventionally designed. So they're not parking on the street and backing out on the street like where the gravel used to be. They'll actually be able to pull into a separate drive aisle with parking spaces on each side to safely drop the kids off.
Now,
Pick 'em
why
up.
wouldn't they start that like after the winter instead of starting it and stopping it?
I'd have to ask, yeah, well,
So there was some utility work, electric underground work that had to be done before when there was a break in school or vacation or something, they had to do it then. I don't know exactly why, but there was some utility work, it had to happen then.
Yeah, I know they were replacing the poles.
Okay,
Yep, thank you.
electric transformer too.
is that it for you, Paul?
Sure.
Sayonara.
Unless you have, we didn't technically go over 46, we did and we didn't, we kinda went over 43 and 46
The
together.
chairman says we did.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
It looks like I see someone for Article 56. Is that you, sir, in the back?
It is.
Why don't you come up, Mr. Isak? Article 56.
Good evening, David Asak, Pine Street, Stoughton, and member of the Stoughton Conservation Commission.
You wanna just grab the microphone, Dave?
Do I need to repeat that?
No, I think picks it up, but just
And Jim Conlon is here tonight if we need him. He's our conservation agent.
Should let Jim get on TV, he's got a tie on.
Jim, you wanna come over and?
He's shy. So Article 56 is the Town Lake Management Program. This is a program that we began, I think, about 5 years ago. We had really tremendous success at Ames Pond. So each year we come in front of the town boards to continue that project. This year it's pretty much the same outlay of $50,000. That money is targeted to continue to treat Ames Pond. I know that we've treated Harris Pond in the past. So these funds funds are gonna go to, 5 ponds, cause I know there was some discussion about why are we doing Ames Pond and ignoring the others. Well, there's a portion of money, I can give you the breakdown if you want it, in fact, I'll give it to you. Ames Pond, about 11,000 of that budgeted, amount is going to Ames Pond, 5,000 to Harris Pond, 1,000 to Dennison Pond, 6,000 to Alberts Pond, and approximately 17,000 to Woods Pond. And the treatment involves, chemicals, distributed by a company that's bonded and licensed and trained, and their resources are incredible. And we're using the same company, basically.
That's
That
correct.
we used in the past.
Questions, John? Jim?
Yeah, well, a comment mostly. The, Jim Guerin, Precinct 6, I'm very pleased with this program, as a matter of fact, and I was, I have been, I do some fishing in town, and I'm pleased with this. Harris's Pond, however, cleaned up a bit, but there's so much sand coming down off of the hills when they used to sand in the wintertime. It carried in the pond and it's filled up the pond now. Now the pond is, well, okay, it's the water is about that deep in some parts down there, and nothing grows there. So I think that we're spending money in a pond that ain't usable anymore. At least in the part on Lakewood, along Lakewood.
If we don't treat the pond, the invasives will take it over.
Well, they did, as a matter of fact, and
Yeah.
it's, so we still have a lot, but this is, there's more work to be done in that pond than just applying, this herbicide into the pond itself. And I think the cleaning out the pond is, if you're going to make it useful, if you're gonna make the water good to go fishing in, then get some water in that you can fish in.
Thank you. Questions, Michael Sullivan? Michael Haran? Dawn?
All set.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
And I don't have questions, I appreciate the program. The public? Mr. Terry?
Richard Terry, 582 Canton Street, to the previous speaker.
Would you pass him the mic, please?
Richard Terry, 582 Canton Street, to the two gentlemen in front of me. Could you list those ponds again and slowly?
Ames Long Pond, Harris Pond, Dennison Pond, Alberts Pond, and Woods Pond. Old Alberts, correct.
Anyone else? Mr. Azak, are you here for anything else?
Yes, Article 36.
Okay, we'll go to Article 36.
So that's an article for $105,000 expenditure for parking lot on Atkinson Ave extension. As you know, the Conservation Commission was vital in getting a donation of approximately 90-something acres.
Correct.
In the vicinity, which basically extends our open space ribbon across the town. The purpose of this parking lot is to provide access to that valuable open space. We all on the board agree that we need to get people out of the house and away from the TV and out into these beautiful woodlands.
Well, it'll be at the dog park too.
Other than,
And this is a CPC article, isn't it?
this is a CPC, that's correct.
I just have to go to the backyard. so.
Yeah.
The donation was from the Goulston family.
Was it?
Yes, that's correct.
Let me see, I'm trying to, I've got 34 and 35, but I can't seem to find 36.
Article 36, parking and trailhead construction at Atkinson Ave extension.
Oh, I saw it.
Did you see it?
And
Well, I think I saw it on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
its purpose goes without saying, to keep people from parking on the street.
Yes, and what was the price on that?
105,000.
I'm sorry if you said it before and I didn't pay attention. I don't shuffle papers like I used to when I was a teacher. I'm out of practice. John? Jim?
Just that I'm totally in agreement with this program also. Thank you.
Michael Sullivan? Michael Haran? Dawn?
Okay.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
Selfishly, a member of my family has moved to Atkinson Ave and has 2 small children, and is a former Eagle Scout, so you'll probably have to put up a gate to keep him out. So this seems to be a continuation of the last town meeting. And people seem to be very receptive. Any member of the public? Yes, Michael? Mr. Barrett?
I'll just fill in.
Yes.
Michael Barrett, the treasurer of the CPC, and the CPC voted unanimously to approve this project and to recommend it to town meeting back on January 4th. The vote was 7 in favor, none against.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Thank you.
And is that the last article you're here for?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Well, we want you to be able to get home safe.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Conlon.
Thank you.
I think we can we can return to where we started. And I guess we're up to Article 33, and these would be the CPC articles. They're kind of we've done 28, so now we're doing 33, 34, and
That's it.
that's it.
Because we did 36.
Okay.
So again, I'm Michael Barrett, treasurer of the CPC. And our next project is the Vital Records Preservation. Supplemental funding of $35,000, and the CPC voted back in September 28, 7-0, all in favor, unanimous, and Stephanie will talk about the project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Stephanie Carrara, Town Clerk. I passed out tonight just so you could get a brief idea of what I plan on doing with the books in the vault. I also brought a few, as I did at the last meeting in front of FinCom, and I did refer to the 1944 book, as I have an old book, and I got a little bit spoken too about that. People were like, "That's not an old book," and I said, and I had to apologize. So, if you look at, what I did was I got a quote from a company so that you could have an idea of what, how the project would go. I also have it, that's on the last page. It's gonna be divided up into sections, and we're gonna do the oldest books first. And what they do is they don't, previous town clerks have had books repaired, but they photocopied them. And when you photocopy the old ink, it damages it. So this company restores, as you see on the front, before preservation. Some of our books look like that. And then on the other side, you'll see after preservation. And they engrave the books so we're not taping pieces of paper to them. For previous clerks and workers in the office, they won't have to worry about, well, what book is this? Like I said, we're gonna start out with the oldest books first. Then we're going to get into the other work that needs to be bound. This will, which is the marriage certificates that are downstairs in the vault. We're gonna do the books, and then we're gonna do the papers, the loose papers. So it'll be an ongoing project for a few years. I'll be working with the CPC on it, and I will be also working with procurement, because I know I have to get 3 quotes. But I got a quote from this company, Co-File. They tend to go with the clerks, and they tend to be at our conferences, so I asked them for a quote so I could present something to the board and also to FinCom and town meeting. But if you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer them.
John?
What's the oldest books you have?
Oldest books that we have go back to 1600s. Yeah, and also when the 4 Capon Street had that fire that time, when they were cleaning out the basement, they found old things of ours, poll books, that have actually a corduroy covering on it. And the gentleman that came from Co-File to take a look at it, he was like, you've got to get these fixed. Like the corduroy like holds obviously moisture and mold and stuff, so those will be books that we're gonna get done, and they're poll tax books that you would think would be the treasurer's, but they're ours.
Now, wouldn't those books be at the Historical Society?
No, because I'm the keeper of the records, and sometimes people have to refer back to them. It's few and far between, but we have the room in the vault. I share a vault downstairs with the tax collector. So they kind of should be together, because the tax collector has to save their records for a number of years. I believe like they have to save payroll records for 75 years. It's like some crazy thing. But the clerk's office, when things get submitted, depending upon what they are a permanent record. And poll tax books are a permanent record for the clerks.
And I'm assuming you have to put on like gloves in order to touch these books?
At one time, before the world changed, let's say, some clerks would let people that were doing genealogy come to the counter and look at the books. I've worked with clerks that let them do that, but they have to wear gloves. I've worked with clerks that say, no, you're not looking at any of the books. So I worked with Dave Lambert, our town historian, and he created, he scanned in all the older records that he could scan in. He came in and spent like maybe 2 days in our vault, scanned them all in, then put everything online, and we have a genealogy tab on our webpage that you can go on all these free websites if you want to do genealogy. Now, some people, we tend to get a lot of people that want to be part of the Mayflower
Society.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know it even existed until, God rest her soul, Ginny, who used to work with us, Ginny McGrath. And so a lot of people come in for that. So you have to trace your lineage back. And with having it online, it frees up our time in the office. I mean, you do get those occasional ones that you have to really dig for, but for the most part, people can go on the free websites and take their time doing it.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Jim?
Yes. Jim Guerin, Precinct 6. How much is it gonna cost to do the vital records in town?
Well, to give you a brief history, let's say several town clerks ago put in for this and got $20,000. She put in for 50, but only got 20. And the money just sat. And Dwight McCarron, who was part of the Historical Society, and he was working with the CPC, and I don't know.
He's on the CPC.
And he's on the CPC, huh, look at that. He kept coming into each clerk after each person was working there. Hey, you got $20,000 for this project. Are you gonna do it? Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. And then came into the next clerk. Hey, you got $20,000 for this project. You gonna do it? I'll think about it. That was the response. Now, I feel, as the town clerk, it's my job to keep those records and maintain them. So I was going to just do the 20 and use that up, but when I went in front of the CPC, they were kind enough to give me the additional funds. So right now I have $50,000. I have the full 50. And once this gets passed at town meeting, I'll be working with Fran Brutnetti, the procurement officer. We'll put out bids and we'll work together, and I'll work with the town accountant to set up a specific account number so that when I have these books, you know, put all together, it'll get paid out of that. So CPC will have an itemized list of how I'm spending the money. Town meeting will have it, and I can keep everybody updated.
And so is this $50,000 you have, is this 35,000 in addition to that?
No, it just, I had the 20 and then I got the 30 to make it the 50. I didn't know I had 35, I thought it was 30.
It says 35.
It says 35, yeah.
Okay, well then I got 5,000 extra dollars.
Take a vacation.
Can
Good,
start.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Karen.
Probably bumped it up a little bit because of the time lapse from when we first approved the 20, that chances are that 50 may not cut it, so.
All right, Michael Sullivan,
No questions.
Michael Haran,
Good.
Dawn,
Yeah, just one question. So is everything gonna be digitized?
Eventually, this here is just repairing the books. Laserfiche is something that I've been looking into, but at this time, I don't feel it's quite the time to get it all digitized, because not everything is a public record that I have to get processed. If you have, and I'll give you an example, Dawn, if someone is not married at the time of a child's birth, whether it was back in the 1600s or whether it's today, it is a restricted record. So not everything can be digitized. So I need to repair what I have, because the paper is so fragile that I don't know if the digitizing will damage the paper or the ink that it's on. So I am looking into that. I have to see how much it's gonna cost. I have to see, I'll just say I'm looking into Laserfiche, but you have to have someone that's dedicated in the office to teach people how to use the Laserfiche. And right now, I don't have the staff for that, so I'd rather just start working on getting these records repaired and then go to the next step. That's the best answer I can give you at this time.
Okay, great,
And-
thank you.
And I can chime in. I think there may also, I'm gonna put Barry on the spot, Barry Castle. There may also be an issue of using CPC funds to digitize. You can clearly use CPC funds to preserve and protect the records. We may need to look into whether or not it would be allowed under the law to use that money to digitize. So when we do get there, we'll evaluate that and/or decide if it's worth doing. It may need to be paid separately by the town.
Yeah.
Arlene,
I would agree on that, with the CPC funds being included on that for their part in all of this. Thank you.
And if I could just add one thing, everyone has to remember that things can get scanned in, things can get digitized, or however you wanna, whatever wording you wanna use, but there are some things that are still paper, and paper is the actual record. Although progress has moved us up, it is, you know, you can scan in, you don't have to fax anymore, you can send things on your phone, which is great. But the laws, especially in Massachusetts, haven't caught up to the technology that's out there. So we have a records retention book, Dawn, that tells us exactly what we have to have. There's specific laws that say you have to have paper, where people think, well, scan it in, it's the, you know, it's, the law's passed. Until we hear that and I get the actual law, paper's the record, and I have to respect that.
anyone from the public? Okay, thank you. I guess that moves us on to Article 34, and then,
Excuse me, I have another article, new voting machines.
okay, do you have to be here for Article 62,
I do not.
electronic permitting software?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, well,
So you don't have to worry about it.
My new voting machines, my new voting machines are mine. Those were my 2 articles.
okay, as a courtesy to you then, we will move down to Article 51, the new voting machines. Sorry, Michael. And Victor.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Again, Stephanie Carrara, Town Clerk. Article 51 is for the purchase of new voting machines. I'm just gonna give a brief overview because I want to have the machines that I currently use here so that everyone could see what we use and how they work. And I wanna have that like when FinCom's here, because there'll be more people, and I'd like to just do a big presentation at one time. But I will tell you that my article is for $75,000. There are 2 approved companies in the state of Massachusetts that the state has approved for us to get quotes from. One is LHS. They are the company that supplies us with the poll pads. The other company is called ES&S, Election Systems and Solutions. These 2 companies are the ones that the state of Massachusetts has approved for us cities and town clerks to purchase them. I will tell you that I was very impressed with one because we did get a demonstration. We got a demonstration on both. There's one I'm leaning towards, but again, it'll go out to bid or whatever. And these machines, both machines, have been, they have security. They've been with the FBI going through everything, making sure that they can't be tampered with. Right now, the machines that I have are AccuVotes. The AccuVote machines are almost 20 years old and they're breaking down. Anyone who is a precinct member at Precinct 3 can remember the November election. We had a hand count because the machine kept breaking down. We had the spare, it kept breaking down. It was very upsetting to my workers. It was very upsetting. We had to go there and hand count, but we got it done. It's what happens when you have an election. It's what happens when you're a city or town clerk, and when you're a clerk, you make it work and you get the job done, and that's what we did. And I actually have Mrs. Clipp, who is a poll worker of mine, who can attest to the different things that I'm telling you. Right now, the AccuVote machine cannot add the sub-precincts. So when you have a sub-precincts, those happen in state elections. Right now with the AccuVotes, I have to rent machines. I have to have the extra bins. I have to have 2 people at the checkout table saying, could you please tell me what precinct you are? Are you precinct 5 or 5A? Oh, you're 5A, you have to put your ballot in this machine. Oh, you're 5, you have to put it over here. And it slows down the process of the flow of the elections. Now, we have a presidential election next year. Primary in March, actual election in November. I can't have that. So both machines, both companies, I should say, they will take the ballots, the sub-precincts and the non-sub-precincts, and it'll all come out on the same tape. They're faster. They're, one has a very large tub. If you remember when you go into the voting booth, you vote and then you go over to the machine and there's a black box. One is ginormous with the machine on top. One is narrower, and it has different aspects. It's a lot easier for my poll workers when they have to run a tape at the end of the night. They can open up a cover and just push the button and it'll say run tape. They run the tape. They don't have to put the ender card through. And I'm trying to move my office forward. I need to have more accurate voting machines, more dependable. When I mean accurate, like I need to have them not breaking down. I need to have, we can't be working till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to get figures. It's unacceptable. I can't do that to my staff. I don't wanna do it to myself, because we're expected to be in the office at 8:30, up and ready for the next day. So, it's time that the town of Stoughton moves on from the AccuVote machines. And what will happen is, one company will give us credit off the quote that I have, and what they do is they take the AccuVotes from us, they give us money off the quote, and they dismantle the machines, and they salvage any part that is working for another city or town if they need, if their town can't afford new machines and they still have to use the AccuVote, those parts can get sold to them to say, well, look, I can put in this new ribbon. It's kind of like when you get into a car accident and you have to use, you can't use a brand name fender, you gotta get the
Original equipment?
not original, the
Aftermarket.
aftermarket, thank you, Lester. So, it's kind of like that. It's like they take your machines, they part it out, and then if you need it, you get the aftermarket part.
Questions, John?
John DeStefano, Precinct 2. I have to admit that I was a little confused when I read new voting machines. I'm probably dating myself here. And first thing I thought it was the machines where you pull the
Pull
curtain.
the lever and the curtain, yeah.
So you're talking about the machine where you put the paper ballot in.
Right, the machines, they are just like you would feed it in. Actually, Mark Tisdale was at one of the presentations, and he was at the ES&S one. And you would go up the same way you would put your ballot in, whether you were precinct 2 and Mr. Guerin was 2A, it goes into the same machine. And it reads it, and then at the end of the night, when they run the tape, all precinct 2 totals come out, all precinct 2As come out. And it's quicker when it's going through.
So there's 2 of those machines at each polling?
No, whatever machine that I can get, either LHS or ES&S, it'll be one machine that can read the ballots.
Okay.
Right now, with the AccuVote, they cannot read a sub-precinct. So I have to have 2 AccuVote machines with 2 people at my checkout asking the voter, could you please tell me what precinct that you're in? Because we use the poll pads. They go, oh, I'm in 5A. Okay, you're gonna put it in this machine.
Thank you,
It's very confusing, because we just had the redistricting. And I'm sorry about
Well
that.
said, thank you.
Jim?
Just a quick one. So we're still gonna have paper ballots?
Oh, yeah,
We weren't,
you'll always have them.
This wasn't a precursor to going digital or push button?
No, please, don't wish that on me. Nope, you'll be able to go the ballot, you'll check in just like you would, they'll hand you your ballot, you'll go to the voting booth, color in the circles, go over to the machine, there'll be a person there, they'll say, please put your ballot in here, you put it in, you'll see the number change, and out you go.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Michael Sullivan? Michael Haran?
No questions?
Dawn?
All set, thanks.
Arlene?
Thank you, very informative.
Anyone in the audience? Okay, we'll get back on to Article 34, Cedar Hill Golf Course renovations. Thank you.
You don't have any? Okay,
Thank you, Stephanie.
As far as I know, you're free at last.
Thank you.
Hey, Victor, how are you?
Good, thanks. Michael Barrett, CPC Treasurer. We have Article 34, Cedar Hill Tee Boxes and Course Renovations for $195,000. This was voted unanimously, 8-0, on 12/7/22. And Victor Beruza is here to tell us all about it.
How you doing? Victor Beruza, Cedar Hill Golf Course. In 2020, the CPC generously gave us $350,000 where we changed the 6th hole to a par 5. After that, business has really taken off. We've received about a 48% increase based upon that. Then COVID hit, went up about another 26% from there, and The numbers are still climbing. We haven't seen any kind of drop at all. We've done over 1,000 rounds since January 1st. It's been an exceptional winter. And for years and years, Cedar Hill was known as the rock pile, second rate, last resort golf course, and we are no longer that golf course. We are breaking that brand, but with all this new traffic and all this new use comes new maintenance, new expectations, and we still have limited resources. So we're looking to build a couple new tee boxes, keep the old ones. We're just going to add some new locations where they can tee off from. It's going to give two new looks to the golf course, and it's going to create an opportunity for the turf to recover, so we still have it doesn't look worn and beat up. We want to get irrigation down the first fairway. It's really, really important for that first impression. We've got fixing the fairway on 9. We're going to level that out and make it all fairway. There's a weird rough patch in the middle. And then a new fence up in the front, which is the wood fence that goes up towards the clubhouse, which is a director for golf carts, people to head towards the front door where they pay, and they've been doing a lot of. So it's been going very, very well. And that's it. I'll take any questions.
John?
Well, the only thing I have to add is I golf there frequently. It's a great asset to the town.
Thank you.
That's all I have to.
Greatly appreciated. Thanks for coming up.
Jim?
Jim Guerin, Precinct 6. Most of my years on the Finance Committee, I was dead set against Cedar Hill because of the reputation you had. I've been off the Finance Committee for 6 years now, and I've seen total improvement on everything down there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Michael Sullivan?
All set.
Michael Haran? Dawn?
All good, thanks.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
Okay, I'm a direct abutter of Cedar Hill. In fact, I've lived in Stoughton longer than there's been a Cedar Hill. I don't golf. I am on the committee. I guess 46 years. But besides being a recreational place, and we have dining and other activities through the recreation department, it's also over 60 acres of open space in an area of town that has no other real open space. Most of our open space has been the West Stoughton area, and I think it's important to recognize that while this is currently a moneymaker, that it will always be important to those of us who live in the area that those over 60 acres not be developed, that they remain open space. This winter, of course, there wasn't a lot of cross-country skiing or anything else at Cedar Hill. It's been operating as a golf course. And I'm very pleased that the rest of the community has caught up with the fact that it's a great place, and it's a fun place, and it's a welcoming place. I was the membership chair for years. We've always had a very diverse group. Even before diversity and inclusion and all of that were buzzwords. We've had women's leagues, we've had couples leagues, we've had people of color, we've had working class folks, and we've had people, college professors, doctors, and lawyers. It's one of those places where you can see somebody from everywhere, and everyone's comfortable. And part of that, of course, is our concessionaires over the years have made people welcome, regardless of where they sit on the salary list. Once you come in and have your beverage and a snack or a meal, everyone's kind of on the same wavelength. They want to improve their golf game and discuss improvements to the course, too. Now, in the past, they were all pipe dreams. but because of Mr. Maruza and his willingness to push and push and push and face some angry people at town meeting and at FinCom meetings too, in the past. Some folks didn't hide their ill feelings toward the place. And now things have much improved, and thank you. Anyone on the audience? Yes, Mr. Terry.
Richard Terry, 582 Canton Street. As a member of the CPC committee, when this came before us, Director of Recreation was also present. And I asked him, what is the most revenue-generating recreational use in town? The golf course. It's the only activity, recreational activity, that generates income. So, nice job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Michael Barrett, CPC Treasurer, and I think, Ms. Walsh, that you just laid out a great case of why the CPC is good for the town. It covers a number of different interests: open space, historic preservation, recreation, and I'm glad to see that we're getting some of those benefits back through the work of Victor, but also through the other projects, which you've heard some of them tonight, and there'll be more for you at town meeting, so that's all.
Yes, thank you for your hard work. I know that you're a numbers person, and it's not easy.
If I can piggyback on what he just said, Cedar Hill wouldn't be where it is right now if the CPC didn't believe in us 3 years ago. So thank you.
Yes.
I couldn't have done it without it. So
Thank you.
thank you. I don't know if we.
I think,
but I'm done.
I think, thank you for the CPC folks. And Victor, stay where you are, and we'll do Article 50 so you can get home to your wife and kids.
Perfect. Quick and easy. Article 50 is about small equipment purchases. Little things, instead of putting in a bunch of small articles, we went into our retained earnings. We're asking for $50,000. It consists of slice seeders, sod cutter, a maintenance vehicle, because we're growing, we have different needs, and we need an extra vehicle in order to get around. We wanted to get into a used vehicle. We're hoping to get it actually cheaper than what we were quoted, but it's hard to get a quote on a used vehicle without actually having a vehicle to purchase in anticipation 6 months from now. So backpack blowers, there's a bunch of little tiny items. We tried to group them all together, and we came up with $50,000 as a number. And we're going to be hopefully a little under that, but that's where we're at. And it's all from retained earnings, which we finally have. So there you go.
I have no questions.
Jim?
Yeah, and this is all coming out of retained earnings?
Yes, sir. 100%.
Thank you.
Finally.
Michael Sullivan?
No, no questions.
Michael Haran?
Yeah.
Dawn?
All set, thanks.
Arlene?
Would it be possible for one of the vehicles that's going to, from the Public Works Department, that they're replacing a couple of trucks, could they give a truck to Cedar Hill to use? That they said they had a plow on it, but
Now,
you wouldn't even need that in the winter.
in the
You wouldn't have to use your money.
right. Well, as far as the maintenance vehicle goes, this is something that would be that would have turf tires that would be able to go out on the grounds. Regular pickup truck wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, though.
Anyone in the public with a question?
I have just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
It's good that you have retained earnings on. What is your, can I just ask you what your balance for retained earnings are?
The balance is currently at $306,000, with a portion of that is being held as a rainy day fund in case we should have a late start or any kind of fallback. With that being said, we, as of yesterday, hit my budget for the year, so everything between now and July 1 is going to be going to my retained earnings pot. We do have the CPC thing, and then we have There might be another article that, not an article, but there might be some maintenance. There's maintenance issues that we have to take care of that have to come out of that for the building, which Paul DeFoon's put in our capital plan. And that's one of the reasons why we went for the CPC for the renovations instead of going through the retained earnings.
One of the things CPC funds wouldn't do is, for instance, repave our parking lot
Maintenance and
needs.
stuff like that. It's more of a renovations thing they can work on, but not
And
maintenance.
you also, in the future, want a new cart barn.
Yes, that's next year. You'll see
New
it.
what?
Cart barn.
Cart barn for the.
Oh, for the.
To
And-
protect the golf carts and
And,
some small, and some
a cart barn
cold
or
storage.
paving isn't, CPC can't help us with that. So we're gonna have to make that money ourselves.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
We
you.
got it.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody good? Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we've done everything down to Article 52. I stand corrected if anyone.
Not including 52, but.
No, we haven't, we're, okay, up to and including 51.
You got it.
Okay, so that's Article 52, and I guess that's Mr. McNulty.
Phil McNulty, Stoughton Water and Sewer Superintendent.
Welcome.
Thank you. So, 6 or 7 years ago, we proposed a couple of scenarios where we do the entire town with new meters or just bite off the commercial portion of that. So the commercial portion was selected, and that's what we did. Since then, we've been doing some of the meters on our own, with our own personnel. And to date, we have about 42% of those completed, with obviously 58% remaining. The benefits of this project would be, number one, labor, and number two, more labor, meaning in the field and then in the office. In the field, the readings are taken either by drive-by or pull up to a house and walk up and plug in. The couple of old styles out there. The new reading system reads directly into the office. The other benefit would be it would detect leaks early, which leads to big problems becoming small problems, especially in abatements, meaning that we have an alarming system and alerting system that we would catch early, day 2, day 3, rather than day 90, which in the quarterly billing. Another advantage would be the database would be one database rather than multiple, and we spend a lot of labor creating a clean database that we can ultimately bill on, and mistakes would be eliminated there. Old meters equal lost flow equals lost revenue, so the idea would be gain that lost revenue from 20-year-old meters, 30-year-old meters, and even older than that. And the return on investment is expected to be about 3 years, typically for residential meters. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
John?
I have no question.
Jim?
Yeah, I've got, is this going to complete this 9,600 meters? Is that going to complete the town?
Yes. And when that's done, all the readings will come directly in the office onto a computer. No more driving by, or unless we need to check something specifically. But for the most part, all the readings will come directly into the office.
Thank you.
And more than that, you can graph a day, a week, a month, a year, and see how someone's usage is doing.
Michael Sullivan?
All set.
Michael Haran?
I give.
Dawn? Arlene?
All set, thank you.
And I've mentioned at a previous hearing that it's important for folks to know which way it's going. I was on the water subcommittee, and if you wait for the quarterly bill, someone discovers that the upstairs bathroom that they don't use anymore because they can't do the stairs has been leaking for 4 months. And it's a tremendous water bill. Many of these folks are seniors or they're disabled, And it was really hard to listen to their plight. And this way, when I get my water bill, sometimes it says, call the office, excessive use, and I find out, okay, that leaky faucet is doing more than just slightly leaking. And other times, it'll say, call the office, because they can't believe how low my water usage is. And I think it's a benefit to the community. Sometimes you don't realize that someone has left an outside faucet on, for instance, or that a pipe has broken that I never go in my cellar, and I have an earthen cellar. So if a pipe were to break, I wouldn't really know about it unless it was a massive flood coming out the cellar door. So I think that whatever we can do to update this, and as Mr. McNulty pointed out, it's fewer people running around town trying to get all these readings. It'll just all go into the office or the water works or wherever it'll be the water works, right?
DPW,
Yeah. Anyone in the public? Okay.
I have a quick question, I'll make it quick. Mr. McNulty, just a quick question. How sophisticated is this new system gonna be? Is it gonna be similar to where a resident can log in, like you look at your electric meter, electric bill, and see what your usage is?
No,
No?
we could produce it if they came into the office,
Okay,
but there are
so-
systems like that.
Okay.
You have to pay a fee every year for the cell
Okay,
tower.
so someone could come in and just say, hey, could I get a report?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good. It's good to have that.
But the-
Okay, let's move on to,
Okay, got one last question. Are they able to pay online at all when this new system comes in? Or is that another system?
Another
Okay.
step, yeah.
We'll
But-
get there eventually, I
but
guess, huh?
That's the first step in getting
Okay.
there, though, yeah.
All right, thank you.
we're moving on to Article 53. I believe that's also you, Pratt's Court, water treatment upgrades.
Correct, that's me. So we're actually gonna propose to pull this article from this year's town meeting with the hopes of putting it on next year's town meeting. The reason for that is, right now, if we borrowed we've had some previous articles come before you, I don't know if you remember, there's been to bring the lost flow from Pratt's from, which used to be 500 gallons a minute, it's now pumping about 150. So to get it back to 500, we've done some investigative work, some studies, pump tests and so forth, and actually drilled the wells. Those are ready to go. That work was done in a 2002 article for about 300,000, I think it was. This article was intended to pick up from there, install the wells, the piping, and change out the filter media for 1.5. Frankly, I'm just nervous about where the PFAS regulations are going. The results of our test are grouped together, but they vary, and the regulations themselves may change. The other benefit, I'm just trying to make a smart choice here, you know. The other benefit would be that by this summer, if we submit a performance evaluation form to the Clean Water Trust, similar to what we did with Muddy Pond, that would be due in August, I think, then we'd qualify for up to about 38% of loan forgiveness through different items, and also a 0% loan. So, and we would get the result of that by next December, and then move forward with an article from there, once that all plays out.
So, you're gonna dismiss this?
Yes.
Okay, then we can just move on then.
Yep.
Right? Well, it's up to you, I'm sorry to jump in.
There's
I
much
just-
to do about
just
nothing,
wanna-
right?
It's up to you.
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
If the
Sorry.
rest of the committee understands, dismissal means it's not gonna be heard at all. So you wouldn't, there's no point in asking any questions until it actually comes up again.
I was gonna ask a question about the PFAS. I was reading an article the other day that said, even though the state of Massachusetts at 20 parts per trillion, there is some talk about lowering that down to 4 parts per trillion.
Yeah.
And now, what does that do? What effect would that have on this and on Muddy Pond?
Muddy Pond is underway, the design's started, so that, after basically the treatment is carbon filters now. There's other ways, but that's the most effective and cost-effective carbon filtering. the result out of that would be zero. So, no matter what the regulations are, will be zero. That's kind of the same thought process I'm taking through, Pratt's Court. No matter what the regulations change to, will be zero.
I'm going to rule that out of order
Okay,
because
all right.
the articles are being dismissed. So that brings us up to Article 55? No, 54,
Yeah.
the water main upgrades.
So this is a continuation of an article from last year, just through the drinking water SRF program, the local, I know a lot of acronyms here, but Local Water System Assistance Program. They lend money at, they have a pool of money at 0% interest that we can take advantage of, and the exact amount is the 1.8 million. And that's intended to incorporate the water master plan recommendations along with the paving plan recommendations and make the best decisions on what roads to pick. Some of the roads were brought up previously are definitely on the list.
John?
No questions.
Jim?
No questions.
Michael Sullivan?
All set.
Michael Haran?
Good.
Dawn?
All set.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
Okay, so that brings us up to Article 55, sewer capital
Public,
in.
just ask for public for the record.
Oh, excuse me, members of the public? We're moving on now to Article 55, sewer capital inflow and infiltration.
Once again, continuation of not only last year, but probably the last 15, 20 years. The II is something that continues. The infrastructure is aging and leaking, joints, cracks, manholes, and it's just more of the same. TV camera work, coming up with a prioritized list of where the major leaks are, and then putting a contract to seal those out. It's
John?
No questions.
Jim?
Yeah, doesn't this re-sleeving stop all the INI in a section of pipe?
When we do, we have to report all this to MWRA sewer folks. As part of it, this is what, as you know from previous years, it's they pay for 75% of it, we pay for 25 at 0% interest. So we have to report to them what we're doing. We don't get 100% credit for either sealing manholes or pipelines. Because if you seal here, the assumption is it's gonna move and try to get it somewhere else, and it does, you know. So we get somewhere between 50 and 75% credit for sealing.
But your intention is that when you re-sleeve them
The intention is to
close.
seal it 100%, yeah.
So this is, this we're chasing a moving target.
Yeah, yeah. It's whack-a-mole, you know.
Thank you.
Michael Sullivan? Michael
All
Haran?
set.
Dawn?
All good, thanks.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
Now, Ms. McNulty, is the last one for you 61?
Yeah, between Mark and myself, yeah.
Just ask the public for the record. Sorry.
I'm sorry, members of the public who wish to comment on the previous article?
Too late.
Seeing none, we're up to acceptance of Kelsey Drive sewer pump station as public.
I can start. This is a project that started some 18, 20 years ago, 3 phases of Goddard Highlands. It's a pump station associated with pumping the sewage from that. It's not a subdivision, it's a condo or association. The written agreement originally from 20 years ago required that the town eventually, at full build-out of the condo complex, we take over the sewer pump station as long as it meets our requirements. We've done several inspections out there, to see if we're ready to take it over. The last inspection we did had 6 relatively minor punch list items on it. And, I know one of them was done, so it brings it down to 5, and actually tomorrow morning is the final inspection to see if it's meets our, requirements. Yeah, Mark.
Mark Tisdale, Director of Development Services, Town Engineer. I think Phil summarized pretty well. Just a couple of small things to add. Taking the pump station over ourselves will actually give us the ability, if we choose to, in the future, to take one of our pump stations offline. Correct me if I'm wrong, Phil. And then secondly, the way that pump station was designed, the space that's available to provide extra storage capacity in case there's enhanced development in the area, either on that street or up towards Easton in that general area. So I think it's overall a great project for the town, if it's functioning the way it's supposed to.
John?
Where is Kelsey Drive?
Atkinson Ave Extension.
Oh, Atkinson, okay.
That's a little
Is
further
that the
south
Garden
of that.
Highlands? Those are houses, aren't they? Rather than condos?
No, they look like houses. It's actually, we don't pick up their trash or plow their streets.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's how you determine?
Yeah.
Okay.
On
Thank you.
138 toward Easton, it's the last street in Stoughton on your left.
I've been to Garden Highlands through.
Atkinson.
Yeah,
and-
but I haven't been,
That was the phase 1 there.
okay, thank
The
you.
others is off of 138 of phase 2 and 3.
I'm all set.
Jim?
Yes, is there, so you seem to be indicating there's enough excess capacity to this pumping station to take care of any future building or that area?
There's room to build extra storage chambers on the property if needed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Michael Sullivan?
All set.
Michael Haran?
Yeah.
Dawn?
All set.
Arlene?
All set, thank you.
Did this project have the effect that we promised the people on Kelsey Drive, that there'd be no more flooding? They used to have terrific flooding. Is that issue resolved itself, or is it still a problem?
This is for a sewage pump station, nothing to do with stormwater or drainage.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we haven't heard any complaints lately.
No,
Usually
I,
this-
and I know that the person who, was a leader of the group still lives there, and I've seen her, so, no, they just, I realize it's a sewer. But the feeling just was that, the feeling on their part was wait and see, and I just hoped that what they were told would happen eventually when this place was all built out. It was promised it wouldn't make the situation worse, but that, the drainage would improve, that by putting sewer in the street, that takes some of the water. As you can see, I didn't get all my engineering classes. Anyone from the public on the Kelsey Drive pump station? Okay. Thank you, Mr. McNulty.
Thank you.
And I guess that brings us to 59 Tosca Drive.
All right.
Your batting cleanup.
Or ninth. I was saying.
And I think we have to be out, I think we have to be out by, in 10 minutes, so.
No, we have time, we're here till 10:30.
You'll be ready for this
Oh.
one.
Oh, jeez, come on. All
What do
right.
you think I said you're so long for?
Yeah. Well, Mark Tisdale, Director of Development Services, Town Engineer. This is the last and final article. There's been several articles at town meeting for Tosca Drive, design services, things of that nature. This article is very lengthy, from a legal standpoint, but essentially what it does is it allows the town to acquire the altered layout of the roads in that area. When you build a project of this nature, the roadway layout, the property lines of the road slightly get modified or changed depending on how the project is. There's also some temporary easements that are created as part of the construction. So when we actually go through that whole process, the select board has to adopt the new roadway layout. Town meeting has to approve that also. The second part of this article is when you do go through and there's temporary easements and things of that nature on the property, you are required to pay damages to the abutters for the project, just like we did for the Safe Routes to School project. So part of the process is to get appraisals, and when the appraisals come in, then they come up with a damage, as they refer to it, and then you pay the abutters along the project.
John?
Well, this article kind of hits home with me because my uncle built Tosca Drive. And, but I'm looking at the design there. Okay, all right, I can see it better now. I just can't comprehend how it's, you know, it's more like, no, I can see it, I'm just trying to, you know, usually in intersections like this,
Yep.
where this one is kind of misshaped, I'm trying to picture how it's gonna work.
Yeah, so,
It's got two lights on.
yeah, so
Oh, it's got
this
two
is,
lights.
there's actually two lights that are
Oh, I
coordinate.
see, okay.
Two lights, yeah.
Right, and
That
they work
makes-
together.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Anything else, John?
Nope.
And, Jim?
Looks good.
Yes, I'll be going through there on Wednesday.
Right.
Michael Sullivan?
All set.
Michael Haran? Dawn?
I just want to say that Tosca needs those lights, but I'm good, thanks.
And Arlene?
All set, thank you.
I think the project too will, is it part of the Safe Routes to School?
Safe Routes to School ends right where this project starts, so this will
Okay.
blend right in with that seamlessly.
But there will be a sidewalk on each side, right?
Yeah.
I just think there, on Buckley, I've been behind the school bus, and I'd say 20 to 30 children get off there.
Yeah.
So even though it's an industrial park, there are a good number of people that live there, and they really do need to get in and out safely, and especially with their children. Any member of the public? Yes, we'll start with Ms. Cliff.
I'm not gonna hear this one. Thank you. Karen Clip, 53 Pratt's Court. I've been following this project since the beginning, and I've talked to Mr. Tisdale many times, and I'm opposed to this project as it is standing. I feel only one light needs to be done, and that's at Tosca Drive. I feel we should leave the park alone and not change the direction of 27. Because at every meeting I've been to, they have not addressed what it's gonna do to Pratt's Court or Brook Street. By people trying to avoid these lights, Pratt's Court cannot be widened and neither can Brook Street. And it would be a very unsafe environment for those two sets of residents, and there's a number of us. And also Mary's Way would be affected by it, because they have trouble coming out if there's more traffic being put on Pratt's Court. If we did not go through Pye Park and kept 27 straight and only put the light at Tosca Drive, it would solve the problem. I think you're creating more of a problem, and I said this from the beginning, even at the police station when we had all the designs from get-go. And my brother used to work at GPI, who did a lot of the study. Unfortunately, he didn't live long enough to see this. He died a few months ago. He also was talking to GPI people and saying, don't recommend that. And I'm just saying, it's a detriment to the town to put these residents in danger. I think we should just keep 27 straight. Is there any way we can do that, sir?
Well, there's a lot of design that went into this, and first of all, I certainly respect your comments. This project's been probably the most marketed project that I've had from a traffic standpoint since I've been here, so there's been tons of meetings, tons of input. It's gone through the state review process, levels and levels of review. I can appreciate your concerns for the cut-through. And right now, with the way the traffic backs up at that intersection, how safe it is, it's not easy to get through the intersection. right now we're trying to get people through the intersection. I think if cars are able to move through this intersection, I don't believe they're gonna try cutting through other areas. They may, but I don't believe that's gonna be the normal route. And if that does happen, there are things we can do from an enforcement standpoint, through the select board to resolve that issue.
I've lived there 38 years, sir, with due respect, and so the rest of my residents have lived even longer than I. We have a difference of opinion. That's all I'm saying. And I wanted to get out to my rest of my town meeting reps that precinct 6, 5, and 8 have to really look at this close, because it's gonna affect your lives. And if you think it's not gonna, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. And I don't wanna be the one to say, I told you so. So please, if you have an opinion at town meeting, and or you're a resident and you're not at town meeting, find out who your town meeting rep is, or let this gentleman know. We want 27 not to be touched, okay? I agree with Tusker Drive being controlled, but not ruining the life of people on those other streets. It's not fair to us. We pay our taxes too.
Thank you. You had a question or comment also? Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Lester Davis, Precinct 3, Park Street. I like the design coming down 27, but I'd like a right-hand turn coming down Central Street. I mean Canton Street to Central Street, blocking, and I was wondering if there's, right here.
That is right.
Yeah, but it doesn't show 2 lanes. It shows 1 lane. So if they're gonna go left, let some traffic that goes right pass through. And I was wondering if there's any coordination with Island Street satellites as well.
You mean West Street?
No, right here.
There's no lights on.
There's no lights at Island.
There's no, I'm sorry, West Street.
Yeah.
Down at the school.
Yes, there will be.
Because the traffic flow to stop here again in short order, and then these 2 lights are coordinated.
This light and the West Street light will be coordinated.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is have a nice gap coordinated so cars can get out of Island Street safely.
Excellent.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
I have another comment.
Anyone else? Yes, Jim?
I would agree with a lot of Karen's comments. If people would signal when they come up, when they come heading, what is it, north on Central Street, whether they're gonna turn in front of the traffic or whether they're gonna go to the right down Canton Street. And I think that's a torture. I think that's the most dangerous intersection I ever saw right there. And people are right sassy when they're driving by.
It's one of those high priority intersections, if not the highest priority intersection. Probably Canton School is right up there with it. And we really, truly are trying to make this intersection safer for cars, pedestrians, bicyclists, everybody. It's going to be a signalized intersection. Cars will be able to get through the intersection. Pedestrians will be able to walk through this area safely because they'll have push button signals. There'll be new crosswalks. They'll be able to even get to the park easier and utilize the park if necessary. I certainly appreciate all Karen's comments, and based on what I've seen and the design I've seen and the models I've seen, I think this will work fine. I'm hoping there isn't a cut through your area, Karen. But I think overall this will be a huge net benefit to the town and the community.
And what's up with that 8-foot sidewalk on Central Street?
That is what they call a shared use path. That is
What?
a shared use path. It's a big sidewalk. And Mass DOT is starting to look at that type of sidewalk, because now they require bike lanes in sidewalks. The other option to that, which they chose to go forward with on that project, is one large sidewalk. And because the number of the type of traffic going down that road and the kids, they chose a large sidewalk to get everybody off the street safely.
Wow. John, did you have additional?
I just wanted to add that going up, past Island Street towards Tosca Drive, people take the left going up to Central Street. And a lot of people think that they're gonna take the left onto Tosca Drive, when in reality they're really going straight.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a lot of cars pass on the right, where the car on the left just keeps going.
Yes.
So I can see what that gentleman was saying. that has to be addressed.
This will certainly address that
Yeah.
issue for sure.
Okay. Drum roll. I
Da-da-da-da,
believe we're
da-da.
at the last article, which is Article 62, electronic permitting software.
All right, Mark Tisdale, Director of Development Services, Town Engineer. This article is for $450,000 for the implementation of electronic permitting software in our town. For those of you that do not know what electronic permitting is, essentially I'm just going to read a little paragraph to simplify it. Electronic permitting is a set of computer-based tools and services that automate and streamline the permit process. The intent of electronic permitting is to reduce permitting time, improve customer service and staff efficiency, enhance quality, and make operating funds more productive. An electronic permitting system typically replaces traditional paper and file card systems, as you can imagine. The software is used to track permits, inspections, licenses, plan reviews, etc. All the permitting departments in our town will eventually be on this. For example, building department, fire department, board of health, engineering, planning, conservation commission, zoning board of appeals, public works will be on this. They do have some permits. Water and sewer department, city clerk has licenses they issue, and the same thing with select board. So all those departments will be on the system. Most towns in Massachusetts do have a system like this. Over 200 communities in Massachusetts have electronic permitting software. We're one of the few that doesn't, and the ones that do not have that are mostly probably located in Western Massachusetts for obvious reasons. So we're just trying to get to the current day and age on how to submit a permit in a town, as opposed to the whole paper situation. It equates to faster permit issuance all around. It's just better business development with the community. We actually will collect more permits and get more permits if it's easier to submit permits. So if plumbers and electricians who own their job, owners of their field, and they're putting in a chimney or a sewer pipe or whatever, some of them I'm sure don't pull permits because they have to take a break out of their day to come in and then fill out the paperwork and then go back to their job, and they're losing money. So there's been studies shown that electronic permitting actually captures more revenue just because of that, the pure ease of submitting an application. What I like about the online permitting is if you go to the Town of Easton website, they have one of the systems we're looking at. There's a viewer for all the permits that come in, and everybody sees the same information. I don't see something different than you do. You just can't get in there and do approvals. I can as an approver. But you can see all the documents that were submitted, the plans, the reports, what fees were paid. So it's all very transparent, and the community can see everything. From my standpoint, from a department head, I can run reports every month, every year, last 5 years, whatever it is, for the amount of revenue we pulled in, number of permits issued, in seconds, as opposed to, maybe a couple hours. So it's a very, very efficient system. And so can you can actually run those reports too from your end. The online payment's key, so there'll be less turnovers, less issues with handling actual money on hand. Through the system, there's actually accountability from my standpoint, which is important. For me, everything's there. It's open. It's transparent. Like I said, it's accountability for me. If there's a permit getting held up, then it's on me as a department head. There's no excuse not to know why. It's there. I can set a standard saying that permit's supposed to get issued in 5 days. If it goes to day 7, I can have a red flag pop up to me, an email hit me saying, hey, this permit's not issued, and I can dig into it very quickly and effectively. So there's definitely accountability from a manager standpoint. It incorporates the GIS system, and obviously I'm not going to go through this every slide of this presentation,
Thank you.
but I'm just summarizing it. We did get a $200,000 grant through the Community Compact Program through the state, so it won't be $450,000. It'll be, the town will feel $250,000, and we're hoping within 2 years the whole system's implemented and operating.
John?
You just answered my question. I was gonna bring up a grant.
Jim?
No question.
Michael Sullivan?
Not a question, but a comment. I've used the Easton portal, and it is very user-friendly as a builder, property owner in Easton. So I do like that system, and I recommend this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Haran?
How's that?
Dawn?
All set, thank you.
Arlene?
Sounds great, thank you.
Anyone in the audience? Yeah, I am not I don't even have Wi-Fi in my home, but this is something that people love, being able to sit down at home with a beverage of their choice at any time of day. You don't have to worry about, oh, is it Friday? Do I have to get to town hall by noontime? Is the person that I need to speak to going to be there when I get there? These are the kinds of things that people have concerns about. And we've been using the word Stoughton is business friendly for quite a while. I think this will make Stoughton very business friendly.
Right.
Just about everyone now is familiar with this kind of thing. They're paying their phone bills at home, their cable bills at home. And so I think the fact that we're kind of in the last third of the towns that are jumping aboard is a shame, because I don't think we're that backward. But I'm glad that whoever put this in did. Now, there's two things, thank you for spending the evening with us.
No problem. Thank you.
Um,
Did you ask the public for a comment?
I did ask the
Oh, did
public,
you?
and he
Sorry.
waved no.
You waved your office?
Any public on the
Thank you, Mark.
internet?
Sorry.
Okay. No, I think most
you,
people
Mark.
have had the beverage of their choice and now have gone to the bed of their choice. I'm going to ask for two motions, so don't anybody click off yet. The first, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, Jim Garren, you made it.
Second.
Second. Wait, John.
Okay, Michael Sullivan,
Yes?
John DeStefano,
Yes.
Cynthia Walsh, yes, yes. Arlene,
Yes.
Michael Haran,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Okay, so there'll be no new information. But before we adjourn, the town moderator, are we going to be back here, or where do you think we're gonna be?
Well, I don't know, do you wanna, we could stay here till 10:30 if you wanted to vote on this now. Or,
It's 20 minutes.
all right. Or, you know, the only other meeting date we can meet here is Monday, March 27th, 7
And-
PM. We can meet online, whatever's easier for everybody.
Yeah, so our option, I thought I was stampeding folks so far, and to do 22 articles in 20 minutes, I think would make it look like Cynthia Walsh just pushed it all through, and people have a right to input. So, that leaves Monday, the 27th, at 7 PM, here at the library, in the training room, or online.
Yeah, be hybrid, same as tonight.
Yes, hybrid. Has anyone got any strenuous objections to that?
I don't.
We just will need a quorum.
Yeah, we'll need a quorum, and I forgot to thank all 7 of you. Well, I'm not gonna thank myself, but
I'll thank you.
the 6 of you who made the effort to spend your evening listening to people explain why they need money for things that you probably, as someone pointed out, where is this in town? Sometimes we don't always know what it's for, but we figure we rely on the presenters, I should say. I don't hear any strenuous objections, so I look forward to seeing or hearing.
Ask them if they all can make it.
Can you make it on the 27th?
Yeah, school, and then Mike Sullivan, precinct 1. I actually have a work conflict that evening, so I can't make that.
Okay. Michael Haran is nodding yes. What about you, Dawn?
I'll try my best. I travel for work, so I won't know until it gets closer, but I'll try.
Thank you, Dawn. Arlene?
I can make it, thank you.
Cynthia can make it. Jim?
I'll be there.
Jim will make it.
And I can make it.
John will make it. And maybe we can get Heidi might be able to make it.
Right, yeah, she's traveling right now, so.
Okay,
So if
so,
only one, Madam Chairwoman, I recommend, please go ahead and schedule that for the 27th. I have concerns about getting quorum for the committee, but if I'm the only objection, then hopefully it'll be okay.
and we want to thank you, we know you have a busy family life, for being here with us all evening. And I didn't hear any little voices in the background, so congratulations.
This board, and thank my wife for putting them to bed tonight.
Yeah, well, congratulations on, sometimes people have dogs and cats we even hear. I need a motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
Okay?
Second.
okay,
All right.
John?
Second.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. What are you asking me?
Two.
would you like to adjourn, John?
Oh, yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Cynthia? Yes. Michael Sullivan?
Yes.
Michael Haran?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Arlene?
Yes.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you all.
Good night.